I became the god of light. Welcome back, brave explorers of impossible worlds. We are excited to have you here to continue this odyssey together. Before we continue, everything you'll hear is pure fiction. So please don't try to replicate combat techniques at home. This wonderful story in all its rights belong to its brilliant original author. We are only the messengers of entertainment. Want another dose of adventure? Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single chapter. And if you can't wait, our Patreon has exclusive surprises you'll love. Chapter 353, The Omniscient and Omnipotent God. But, I heard from Brother Mao that the evil tribe is very strong, even the Thunder tribe is afraid of them. God, Stone was still worried. Other tribesmen who heard the commotion also became worried. God, Kwang wanted to defend God. The next second, he froze. A light flashed overhead, and then, as if teleported, the white light that was on the horizon a moment ago descended upon the tribe. Looking closely, they saw the great God. God is back, Stone exclaimed with joy. God, a loud cheer erupted from the thousands of tribesmen. Watching God disappear into the divine stone, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. The result was obvious, God had definitely won. Kwang waved his right hand and patted Stone on the head, laughing. Kid, now do you still dare not believe in God? I believe. Stone gave an awkward smile. Even the evil god of the Thunder tribe, which they feared, was defeated by God. He truly is God. Every tribesman felt similarly relieved. Gods are the most important part of a tribe. Without them, the tribe would surely fall apart. Celebrations rang out. The Yanhuang people lit bonfires, laughing and joking around them. It was another lively night. Suyun, inside the divine stone space, fell into deep thought. He looked at the threads of faith within his divine core, examining them carefully. 7 million already, almost there, Suyun smiled. Under the thread of 2 modern suns, and with their vast coverage, at least hundreds of millions of people were affected. This was only because different places had different beliefs, and the faith in the sun god was waning, lacking a religious foundation. Otherwise, the increase in faith could have been even faster. Moreover, under the thread of sunlight, those people would eventually betray their allies and enter a true fragrance mode. There was even online dissemination. Originally, hundreds of millions were paying attention to this matter. As time passed, it naturally spread wider and wider, with an ever-increasing impact. If you add in those online who need spiritual solace and yearn for divine intervention, the number of believers will increase at an astounding pace. Suyun estimates that he might reach the level of a 7th level god in the real world before tomorrow. Once I reach the 7th level, I won't have any reservations. I hope you come looking for me later, so I can give you a huge surprise. Suyun smiled slightly. Now it's just a matter of whether his advancement speed is faster or the arrival of the evil god is faster. After pondering his advancement, Suyun started thinking about ways to indirectly improve his strength. My advancement speed is too fast. I've already missed many characters. Suyun was caught in a happy dilemma. It's time to add more character divine arts. He began to think about what kinds of divine arts he could create. Soon, he recalled several characters he had previously envisioned but hadn't implemented for various reasons. Optical invisibility characters, and mirage illusion characters. Suyun's eyes lit up. With these two, I'll definitely become a master of illusion and deception. Even in future battles, I can toy with my enemies. The more he thought about it, the more interested he became. Suyun immediately began to ponder how to create these 2 divine spells. As he thought, he realized they were somewhat similar. A single mirage spell might be enough to achieve invisibility. However, considering that most divine spells, except for those like the Golden Wheel which lack special effects, would have unique effects, having only one might mean missing something. Most importantly, I'm currently flush with cash and have no worries about running out of character slots, Suyun thought, stroking his chin. Plus, he was about to advance in rank, so wasting a few character slots wouldn't be a problem. After thinking it through, Suyun had his physical body, still in the real world, use his phone to search for information on mirages and optical invisibility. Several tens of minutes later, he had acquired a vast amount of knowledge. Alright, we can move on to the next step. Suyun directly found the old priest's thread of faith, then his consciousness floated along the thread, and without a word, he showered him with a huge amount of knowledge. He casually instructed him to first teach the clansmen the theory of invisibility before decisively withdrawing. I'll leave the rest to the old priest. Suyun smiled slightly. As for his own research, That was out of the question. Research was impossible. Developing those two divine spells was too troublesome. Even after researching them, he'd need to practice until he was proficient before the characters could be created. He was afraid he'd go bald by then. Even if he did manage to create them, it was uncertain whether they would have any special effects, which would be a waste. This was perfect. As long as his people understood the theories of invisibility and mirages, and given that light itself could do these things, the characters would naturally be created. It was simple and a permanent solution. With the mirage characters, I might be able to portray the beings I have always been afraid to in the real world. Su Yun thought of the beings he had always wanted to portray but had held back due to insufficient ability and other concerns. Omniscient and omnipotent, God. However, the thought of portraying this being still put him under considerable pressure. Forget it, I'll wait until my strength improves further, it's not enough now, Su Yun thought to himself. While he was pondering this, the old priest was also trying to sort through his memories with a bewildered expression. As he examined the area, his old face grew increasingly shocked, his eyes shining brighter and brighter. He blended his own color into his surroundings, becoming even more invisible, and illuminated a figure by the color of the light. God? Is this the authority of my God? He cried. I never knew. His face was filled with guilt and repentance, lamenting his own foolishness. He hadn't even grasped a fraction of God's power, needing God to remind him. If he was like this, what about his people? Suddenly, a resolute light flashed in his cloudy eyes. No, I must make my people understand God's greatness, understand God's power. He had decided that even without God's command, he would clearly explain these two powers to his people, letting them understand God's strength. Thinking about this, he lay awake, unable to eat or sleep, his mind racing. Early the next morning, the old priest, with dark circles under his eyes, pushed open the wooden door and stepped out of the hut. As soon as he opened the door, golden sunlight streamed in. Looking up, they saw a cloudless sky, a clear blue sea and sky, a rare and beautiful day. After checking the weather, the old priest hurried to the altar and began to gather his people. He wanted to tell them about the power of the gods, so that they could all bask in the light of God and not remain ignorant. With heavy steps, the old priest seemed to be radiating a sacred glow, leaving the passing tribespeople stunned. Chapter 354 New Divine Arts in Progress. After walking for a while, the old priest arrived near the altar. Some early risers were receiving manna. A large crowd had gathered, forming a long, dark queue. The old priest walked to the front of the queue and called out in a deep voice, "Fellow tribesmen, I have something important to tell you." The crowd fell silent, looking at him with puzzled eyes, wondering what the priest was going to say. "What is it? What happened again?" the tribesmen whispered among themselves. The old priest coughed a few times, signaling them to be quiet, and then continued, "Wait a moment, inform everyone that I will speak about something special, about the gods." Hearing that it was related to the gods, the tribesmen's spirits lifted, their eyes widening with anticipation. Soon, at the old priest's command, everyone called out to their friends and family throughout the tribe to gather more people. While they were doing this, the old priest called over a few men and instructed them, "Go and prepare some." As time passed, the crowd grew larger and larger. 1,000, 3,000, 7,000. Soon, most of the tribe had gathered, standing in a dense, dark mass on the open ground. Even the old tortoise, who had been dozing near the field of divinely bestowed plants, now strode curiously to the old priest, eager to hear what he had to say. The old priest glanced at the crowd, and seeing that most of them had arrived, a satisfied smile appeared on his face. He shouted powerfully, "Yesterday, we witnessed the power of the gods. Even such a powerful evil god was defeated by our God. Do you all think the gods are strong?" As soon as he finished speaking, a series of shouts of agreement rang out from below. Strong, in everyone's hearts, there was no doubt about this answer. After witnessing the terrifying power yesterday, they were filled with even more confidence in the gods. The old tortoise a few meters away from the old priest rolled his eyes upon hearing this. He muttered to himself, "This isn't just strong, it's monstrous." Compared to the others, his strength was far greater, but as a level 5 beast, he could naturally discern the aura of the gods in the sky at that time. Level 7. Recalling what he felt then filled him with terror. He thought the tribe might be doomed. But what he didn't expect was that the god of light was also incredibly powerful. His eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. Such a rapid increase in power, wasn't that a bit much? The thought made him feel a pang of bitterness. Of course, he then realized that the God of Light's rapid increase in power further confirmed his identity as the Creator God. From that moment on, he secretly resolved to curry favor with the God of Light. So now, hearing the old priest's words, he immediately felt they were biased. This wasn't just strong, it was downright monstrous. After thinking all this, he continued listening, wanting to see what the old priest would say. Hearing the tribe's people shout about the strength, the old priest smiled with satisfaction and shouted, "But I must tell you, we haven't even grasped a fraction of the power of a god." Upon hearing this, thousands of tribes people, including the old tortoise, all looked on with suspicion and uncertainty. What did he mean? Then they heard the priest say, "Today I'm going to talk about the power of God, a power that no one understands. We are believers, how can we not even understand a little of God's power?" Astonishment immediately appeared on everyone's faces. A power they didn't understand. What unknown abilities did God possess? The crowd thought, a mixture of curiosity and shame washing over them. After the crowd calmed down a bit, the old priest called over a few people and took what they were holding. The crowd looked closely and saw that it was some green leaves, strung together with thin hemp rope, forming a green leaf about the size of a head. "Come with me," the old priest called to his people, then walked towards the edge of the tribe. A short while later, he led several thousand people to a place with lush vegetation. The old priest glanced at the crowd and called out, "Stone, come here." Oh, Stone curiously walked to the priest's side. The old priest surveyed the surroundings and suddenly pointed to a place hidden by vegetation. "Go hide in that place." Stone did as he was told. "Everyone can see Stone, right?" the old priest suddenly asked. The crowd glanced at Stone, who was crouching in the bushes. Although most of his body was hidden, some parts were still visible, such as his messy, conspicuous hair. Not knowing what the priest was going to say, they all nodded, suppressing their laughter. Before the old priest could say anything, Stone, who had been mocked, couldn't hold back any longer and shouted, his face flushed, "Stop laughing, don't you hide like this when you hunt?" "What are you laughing at?" The crowd, who had been laughing, thought about it carefully and realized it was true. They stopped laughing and looked at the priest with confusion, wondering what he was going to do. The old priest looked at Stone with satisfaction and smiled, "This is how we always hunt. Do you know why we do it? To make the prey unable to see us. What else can we do?" A tall man in his 40s said nonchalantly. "Exactly, what else can we do?" the crowd echoed, all wondering why the old priest had asked such a question. The old priest continued with a smile, "Then why can't we see it? I know. The leaves are covering Brother Stone," a 7 or 8-year-old child excitedly answered. Everyone nodded. The old priest said, "You're only partially right, but it's true that the leaves are covering the stone." Saying this, he walked to where the stone was hiding and placed the green leaves he held on the stone's head. "Now, can you still see the stone's hair?" The crowd hesitated for a moment, then shook their heads. The old tortoise watching rolled its eyes, then said disappointedly, "Old man, is this what you're going to teach me?" Hearing his question, only a few people were puzzled. Most of the Yanhuang tribe's eyes lit up, excitedly thinking they understood. "So that's how it is. This method is really useful. We can use it for hunting later." "Yes," they discussed enthusiastically. The old tortoise shook its head in disappointment and took a step to leave. This kind of thing was better left unseen, it was of no use to him. Just when everyone thought that was the case, the old priest shook his head, his aged voice deep and unfathomable. "My people, that's not what I wanted to say." The old tortoise paused. "What?" The crowd was stunned. If not that, then what was it? Everyone was filled with doubt. Chapter 355 The Power of Our God. The old priest recalled the divinely bestowed knowledge in his mind and suddenly asked, "If the leaves on the stone's head were red, would you still overlook it?" The people thought for a moment and shook their heads in unison. Red was too obvious. Even if they didn't notice it at first, they would observe carefully after noticing the red and eventually discover the stone's hiding place. The old priest said, "Therefore, the premise of all this is that we use the same color as our environment to achieve this guise. According to divine revelation, our eyes will ignore things of the same color. You will quickly notice the red on the stone because it is so distinctive that we cannot ignore it. If the stone were the same color as its surroundings, would you still notice it?" As the aged voice echoed softly, the people unconsciously fell into deep thought. Yes, if the stone were the same color as its surroundings, how could they possibly notice it? The more they thought about it, the more astonished they became. Seeing the astonishment on his people's faces, the old priest smiled and said, "That's right. If the stone were the same color as its surroundings, you would only think it was part of the plant and wouldn't notice it. According to the revelation, this is visual deception," the old priest suggested. "In the future, we can make things that are the same color as the environment, so that we can be as undetectable as possible." The people nodded excitedly. The old tortoise seemed thoughtful, thinking that the old priest's words made sense. However, if it was just like that, it didn't seem to have anything to do with the gods. Just as he was wondering this, he heard the old priest say, "Of course, that's not what we're talking about today, but about spreading the power of the gods. We all know that being the same color can hide us. If we were always the same color as our surroundings, what would happen? What would happen? Of course, we'd disappear," the old tortoise muttered quickly, then looked surprised. "That's right, that's invisibility," the old priest said. "As long as we always stay the same color, other people's eyes won't be able to see us." Everyone was surprised when they heard this. "No one can do that," the old tortoise said skeptically. He simply didn't believe that anyone could always be the same color as their surroundings. "Yes, leaves can help, but if we were in open ground with nothing around to help us, how could we possibly hide?" The group imagined it and were all somewhat disappointed, feeling it was impossible. The old priest, hearing their words, wasn't angry or embarrassed. Instead, he smiled. "Is that so? Then what about our god of light?" The group frowned, wanting to say that even a god couldn't do it, right? But remembering that it was a god, how could they question him? So they all fell silent, choosing not to answer. The old tortoise pursed his lips, not speaking, but inwardly thinking that the old man had run out of tricks and was using the god of light as a scapegoat. The old priest knew what they were thinking and said, "It seems you still haven't realized anything." He sighed. "Indeed, we are all insignificant mortals. How can we understand the greatness of a god?" Facing their questioning eyes, he explained, "Last night, when the god first appeared, the color of the light on his body was different from what we had seen before. Aren't you puzzled, golden light?" The group thought about it and indeed, it was very strange. The old priest continued, "God can change all colors, he can control all colors of light. What does this mean? It means God can become like the surrounding environment, achieving what we just thought was impossible." "What?" the crowd gasped in astonishment. Even the old tortoise gaped, his eyes wide with disbelief. They thought about it carefully, although it seemed exaggerated at first. The priest's words made it clear that God could indeed do it. Seeing their incredulous expressions, the old priest chuckled, "There's something even more astonishing. You must know, colors are bestowed upon us by the great God of light. They are his gifts." He was determined to shock everyone. His words caused an uproar among the 7,000 or 8,000 people, who erupted in shouts. Impossible, how could such a thing happen? Even the old tortoise couldn't believe it. While the great God of light could indeed achieve invisibility, the existence of colors bestowed by the God of light was beyond their comprehension. Everyone felt the priest wasn't telling the truth. Even the old priest himself found it unbelievable. He said, "You may not believe it, but it's all true. I will explain God's power. You just need to know that color is a gift from God. God didn't require this to be told to the tribe, it was simply that after understanding the knowledge in his mind, he didn't want the tribe to remain ignorant, so he spoke it out. Therefore, he didn't force them to believe or not. This is God's revelation, one of the truths of the world. The colors we see are all reflections of light. All things have been given the right to absorb light by God. The light they reflect or transmit, after being processed by our brains, is what we see." The old voice echoed in the tribe, making everyone who heard it feel like they were in a dream, confused, as if listening to a myth. They couldn't understand absorbing and reflecting light. Fortunately, Su Yun didn't tell the old priest that people could also emit light, otherwise they would have been even more confused. However, despite their doubts and disbelief, a seed of understanding was planted in their hearts as the old priest explained. At least they knew that color was related to light, and perhaps one day it would sprout and be proven. After recounting a long string of theories, the old priest smacked his dry lips and then began to explain the theory of mirages in detail. During this process, every member of the tribe was dumbfounded, feeling as if they had discovered a new world, as if the world itself were an illusion. Whether they believed it or not, the old priest added, "The power of our gods is beyond the comprehension of us mortals. We may not believe it in our hearts, but we cannot question its reality. We should try to accept it, to explore it. In the revelation, these are all truths. In the process of exploration, perhaps we can gain a lot. He glanced at the divine warriors, seeing their thoughtful expressions, and nodded with satisfaction. Inside the divine stone space, Su-Yun watched the old priest's performance and couldn't help but smile. Whether they believe it or not, it's a fact, and the characters will be born without any surprises. He was very certain of this. Now we just need to wait. Time passed quickly. Soon, 3 days had gone by. During the time Su-Yun was waiting for his promotion and for the birth of his character, people with ulterior motives, whether hostile or benevolent, began to take a series of actions. Chapter 356 Several Level 7 Gods Attack. That morning, slightly overcast clouds obscured the sun, making the sky appear somewhat gloomy. Far, far away, a gray figure swept across the sky at incredible speed, leaving no afterimage. After flying for an unknown period, the gray figure stopped, seeing the city walls appearing ahead. His appearance was now fully revealed, a tall, gray-haired, fierce-looking middle-aged man. The god of evil, looking at the tribe, which was no smaller than his own, sneered disdainfully. Then, a terrifying divine power was released from him. The pressure swept rapidly across the vast tribe, which stretched for over 10 kilometers. Cries of alarm instantly erupted from the mouths of the unfamiliar tribe's people. The pressure pressed down on them, almost suffocating them. After releasing the pressure, the god of evil narrowed his eyes and waited quietly. The next second, "Stop!" A cold, explosive shout came from afar. With the sound came a man who had been on the horizon a moment ago, now appearing 10 meters in front of the god of evil. The man, dressed in black, was about 30 years old, with handsome features, a full head of black hair, and a tall, imposing figure. He stared coldly at the god of evil, shouting, "God of evil, what are you doing here, trying to provoke me, fallen god? You're still the same as before." The god of evil didn't seem to care, forcing a smile onto his stiff face. "Speak your mind." The god of Fallen's face was grim, threatening a fight at the slightest provocation. "Of course I have something to ask." The god of evil became serious. "I've come to ask you for a favor, to help me deal with someone." "No way." The god of Fallen refused without hesitation. He would never agree to offend a 7th level god. "Let me finish. After I finished, I think you'll be interested," the god of evil said confidently. The god of Fallen paused, frowning as he looked at him. "The one I want you to deal with is a level 6 god." The fallen god was taken aback. The evil god said grimly, "Don't underestimate him. I was recently defeated by that level 6 god." "Are you serious?" The fallen god was shocked, staring at the evil god in astonishment. Although he didn't want to admit it, he had to acknowledge that the evil god was about as strong as him. Now that he had lost to a level 6 god, didn't that mean he would likely lose if he encountered one? Impossible. Then, the evil god recounted the events in detail. The strange artifact, the chili peppers, snow salt, porcelain, divine plants, and so on possessed by the god of light, were all described in detail. Hearing about these wonderful things, even the fallen god, a level 7 god, couldn't help but feel a little tempted, especially by the strange artifact. However, the danger would also increase dramatically. He hesitated. After a long pause, he spoke regretfully, "It's too dangerous." The god of evil knew what he was about to say, and suddenly gritted his teeth, saying, "That guy has a secret to rapid advancement." The god of fallen god paused, staring at him in shock. Seeing his reaction, the god of evil felt a pang of regret, but the ensuing resentment still compelled him to explain. As the god of fallen listened, his mouth gaped open in astonishment. From a 4th level god to a 6th level god in such a short time, how could that be possible? The god of evil isn't lying to me, is he? He hesitated. No matter how he listened, it was unbelievable, but if it were true. Thinking of this, his breathing quickened, and his eyes reddened. He had been trapped at level 7 for nearly 1,000 years. If he could truly obtain the secret to rapid advancement. However, the evil god knew what he was thinking and swore, "Everything I said is true. For safety this time, I plan to invite more gods. You can rest assured, even if I were to lie, I wouldn't dare lie to you all. We will share that secret." The fallen god thought it made sense, and his greed burned even brighter. At the same time, he became unwilling to share with others. In the end, the evil god recounted how he had almost died at the other party's hands, which calmed him down. On the surface, he reluctantly agreed to the sharing agreement. After the discussion, the fallen god returned to his tribe to prepare and then followed behind the evil god, flying towards their next target. After flying for about 10 minutes, they arrived at a place, a tribe of similar size. Desire, come out, HMPH, a cold, delicate snort came. A woman dressed in pink, about 16 or 17 years old, with a graceful figure, curvaceous and full of allure, with a beautiful and exquisite appearance, and a special scent, walked gracefully towards them. What brings you two here? Come visit me sometime, she said, licking her red lips and looking at them with lustful eyes. The two evil gods, about to speak, instantly paled, a blush creeping onto their faces. Stop, the fallen shouted fiercely, if you keep playing this game, I'll kill you. Oh, how scary, the god of desire patted her chest, her eyes seemingly overflowing with tears, appearing weak and pitiful. Suddenly, her eyes lit up as she stared at the fallen, but I love you like this, so domineering. Healy seeing the two about to fight, the evil god quickly stepped in to stop them. Then, he explained the purpose of his trip and what happened with the god of light. What? What did you say? The god of desire exclaimed, her face contorted with rage, no longer caring about seduction. The secret to rapid advancement, she murmured to herself. Thinking of the god of light, her eyes burned with greed. She chuckled, looks like I'll get another toy, I'm so excited. With desire's agreement, the three gods continue their journey. To be on the safe side, the god of evil ignored the other two gods' opinions and approached another. Soon, the three gods arrived at a place covered in spider webs, the forest a blanket of white. Inside the forest, there was also a city wall, equally large. Spiders, come out, soon, a woman in her 30s, dressed in purple, with a striking yet ruthless appearance, emerged. After hearing the god of evil's words, she too was captivated, her right cheek, adorned with black tattoos, twisting into a sinister smile. After the four gods had discussed their plan, they rushed towards the Yanhuang tribe with lightning speed. God of light, you're dead, ha ha ha. Looking at the three gods beside him, the god of evil laughed arrogantly. He didn't believe the god of light could survive this time against four 7th level gods. Even with such bizarre methods, there must be limits. You're dead, ha ha ha. His laughter echoed in the high sky, the Yanhuang tribe. While the four powerful level 7 gods were en route, the tribe was currently receiving some guests. Chapter 357 The Birth of New Characters. Arm of the Fire God tribe, along with Yan and several others, were sitting on a wooden stool, conversing with an envoy from the Thunder tribe. The ones speaking to him were Black Mountain, a middle-aged man who had visited several times before, and the young Yuan who. Since the terrifying battle a few days prior, the Fire God, the Thunder God, and other gods, out of concern and shock, had all sent envoys to the Yanhuang tribe. That's why they were chatting here. Besides their two tribes, people from the Forest tribe, the Gale tribe, and the Hunting tribe, among others, were also talking in the distance. Arm, you arrived a day early, do you even know what happened? Black Mountain, with his broad frame but slender build, asked, implying whether the Yanhuang tribe was involved in what happened that day. Yuan who, standing nearby, immediately perked up their ears. Upon hearing this, Arm said, after some investigation and with the information from the priests of the Yanhuang tribe, I've basically figured it out. One of the people fighting that day was the evil god of the evil tribe, and the other, he paused, glancing at the three people staring intently at him, his expression slowly filing with astonishment. It was indeed the god of light. I heard he even defeated the evil god, forcing him to flee. What? It's true, the three from Black Mountain exclaimed, their faces filled with disbelief. They simply couldn't believe what they were hearing. The evil god. What kind of being was that? A god of a level 7 tribe. Everyone had only heard of such beings, knowing only that they were unimaginably powerful and terrifying. Yet, now, according to Arm, that evil god not only fought the god of light but also lost. The god of light of the Yanhuang tribe is actually so strong, you stared in disbelief. Thinking about his previous actions, he involuntarily shuddered, regretting coming to the Yanhuang tribe and wishing he had more legs to escape. Didn't you all see it that day? Arm shook his head, sighing, that power. Upon hearing this, the others couldn't help but recall the terrifying commotion of that night, and all felt a chill run down their spines. Even with their extreme confidence in their own gods, they wouldn't dare to be so arrogant as to believe that their gods could be that powerful. After a moment of silence, Arm spoke first. Since we're here in the Yanhuang tribe, we can trade some things before we take the news back. Hearing this, the others felt a little relieved. The porcelain is quite nice, Black Mountain praised. Both the snow salt and the porcelain were highly regarded in their tribe and were very popular. It's a bit of a pity that the divine plants of the Yanhuang tribe haven't matured yet, otherwise we could have bought some to take back, Black Mountain said with anticipation in his eyes. Yes, the others nodded in agreement. Ever since they had eaten the meat seasoned with chili peppers, they felt like they had claws scratching at their hearts, eagerly anticipating the taste. While the many outsiders were discussing things, Su-Yun frowned in the divine stone space. Not long ago, he had felt a sense of crisis, a heavy weight pressing on his heart, as if some danger was approaching. After a moment's thought, he realized the reason. It must be that evil god. Thinking of this, Su-Yun glanced anxiously at his divine spark and scanned the number of faith threads. Over 9,800,000. Such bad luck, Su-Yun's brows furrowed deeply. If only I had half a day, no, 2 hours. Given the increasingly rapid growth of the faith threads, he was absolutely confident. Unfortunately, that evil god had arrived too quickly. Not only would he not be able to give the enemy a surprise, but he might also be in mortal danger. Moreover, judging from his feeling, this crisis was definitely not to be underestimated. Not enough faith crystals, Su-Yun's expression darkened. Last time the evil god attacked, he had used up all his faith crystals of level 5 and above when using the blessing spell. He quickly racked his brains for a solution. Thinking of faith crystals, his first thought was of the tribal envoys currently in the tribe. If he borrowed them. After a long pause, Su-Yun shook his head, rejecting this idea. The Thunder tribe and other tribes, though they seemed strong before, are now just so-so, not really powerful at all. Their envoys only carried a few level 5 faith crystals at most. What use were those to him? With my current strength, I need level 7 faith crystals, Su-Yun sighed. Having exhausted all other avenues for acquiring faith crystals, he turned his attention to divine arts. 3 days had passed in the other world. He had thought the new character would be born soon, but fate had other plans. As time ticked by, the sense of crisis grew stronger. I'll risk it all. Since my luck is bad, I'll change it. Su-Yun suddenly focused on blessing spells, thinking of the elusive concept of luck. A dazzling light shimmered on his body. Blessing spell, enhanced luck. The divine power within him began to surge, instantly dissipating by more than 20%. Boom. A mysterious power enveloped him, a power filled with profound mystery and ethereal illusion. Something seemed to have changed. If it weren't for casting the spell on himself, coupled with his divine sensitivity, he truly wouldn't have noticed. This feeling is so familiar, a bit nostalgic. Su-Yun sighed slightly. Just as he was thinking this, a peculiar fluctuation appeared in his divine space. Su-Yun was dumbfounded. No way, was he really going to do this? With disbelief, he channeled his consciousness into his body. Within his divine space, a transparent character abruptly appeared, forming a stark contrast with the other blue-purple characters. It really is a character, Su-Yun murmured in surprise. This luck is too. Just as he was thinking this, something even more astonishing happened. Another fluctuation occurred in the space, and then a profound character was born right before his eyes. The character started from a point, then spread outwards like vines, perfectly outlined. A second one. Su-Yun stared numbly at the two transparent characters, now at a loss for words. This is what Europeans are like? So that saying was true, Su-Yun murmured to himself. He thought of a saying. Everyone dies eventually, but Europeans need a little help. This differential treatment is just too much. Although he did have a premonition that the character would be born soon, the fact that it was born so soon after he cast a blessing spell, and that it could be played like this, made Su-Yun's lips twitch. Even though it wasn't the first time he'd witnessed the power of a blessing spell, he still couldn't help but marvel. Chapter 358 4 Level 7 God's Attack. After the initial shock, Su-Yun quickly had an idea. 2 threads shot out from his divine core, connecting with them in the blink of an eye. The characters, originally transparent like crystal, began to rapidly change color. In the blink of an eye, 2 characters, mostly purple and with a small portion of blue, appeared in the divine core space. Invisibility characters, mirage characters. Su-Yun forced himself to experiment, first casting a blessing spell on his physical body in the real world before beginning his study. Use this time to familiarize myself with it. Divine spell, invisibility. The invisibility characters flashed with a purple-blue light, and his divine power decreased by 1% in the blink of an eye. So little, Su Yun was just surprised, a slight disappointment rising in his heart, when a strange scene appeared. He saw his body begin to change rapidly, a transparent color twisting and covering him. Then, his body composition seemed to change, transforming into the form of light and merging into the air. In less than a second, he disappeared from the divine core space. Even the aura surrounding him vanished eerily, as if he had disappeared into thin air. Su Yun tried taking a few steps, only to find that even the sound of his footsteps had disappeared. He tried shaking his hand, but there was no sound of anything cutting through the air, as if the mass of his entire body had vanished. Go out and try, Su Yun flashed out of the divine stone space. As soon as he came out, he found the old priest performing a ritual. Why is it being performed at this time? Su Yun was puzzled. Shouldn't rituals be performed at fixed times? He hadn't given any instructions, so why was the old priest? Just as he thought of this, he suddenly realized something. Could it be that when a blessing ritual is performed, it brings a surge of faith power for a certain period of time? Since it was just good luck, this situation would be normal when faith is scarce. After figuring this out, he stopped focusing on this point and instead transferred a part of his consciousness into the old priest's body. His divine body walked up to the old priest and even waved in front of him, wanting to see the effect of invisibility. Following the old priest's perspective, he was surprised. At the edge of his vision, there was nothing but air. Even the shapes and outlines he had imagined appearing as he moved were nowhere to be seen. Perfect invisibility. Su Yun smiled. Then, considering the strange state of his body, he didn't disturb the clansmen performing the ritual and went straight to a wooden hut. He moved his right hand and pressed it against the hut. Su Yun was a little disappointed. So my body didn't disappear after all. After testing the effect, he suddenly realized that he seemed to have another ability. Su Yun stretched out his index finger and pointed at a corner of the hut. Then a strange thing happened. The brown color of the wood at the touched part instantly changed, emitting a golden color. This is changing the color of an object, Su Yun said, somewhat astonished. And it wasn't temporary, he had a feeling this was a permanent change. Instinctively, he immediately thought of the old priest's indiscretionary explanation earlier. Seems a bit useless, he muttered, speechless. Am I supposed to take this stone and turn it into gold? That doesn't seem impossible. Unfortunately, this kind of gold only looks real. Even the ancients couldn't be fooled. Just like in the movies, the ancients might bite it to test its authenticity, but if they actually bit it, their teeth would break. It's even less feasible in modern times. After testing the approximate effect of the invisibility technique, Su Yun flashed back to the divine stone space and then began testing the mirage characters. Su Yun stood in the pure white space and suddenly stretched out his right palm. Then, something materialized from the void, appearing in the air. It was a diamond the size of a head, shimmering in the air. A real entity? Su Yun was shocked and subconsciously reached out to touch the diamond. As a result, his hand passed right through the diamond. So that's it, a mirage that looks like a real entity? Just as he thought this, Su Yun's heart stirred, and the diamond began to shimmer, becoming more and more fake, turning into an ordinary mirage. The illusion shifted. Su Yun was quite satisfied with the effect of this divine technique. Although it seemed useless, it would definitely be very effective at fooling people. With these two divine techniques, his chances of dealing with the evil god were much greater. A series of tactical plans popped into his mind. Next, we just have to wait. As he spoke, he glanced at the threads of faith again, his heart filled with regret. Time passed quickly. A dozen minutes later. Suddenly. Boom boom boom. Several loud explosions rang out above the Yanhuan tribe. The envoys from various tribes, who had been chatting, and nearly 10,000 Yanhuan tribesmen, looked up in shock. They saw the sky above the tribe distort as several terrifying pressures collided, sending waves and loud noises through the air. The air became thick and viscous. Then, the next second, with a boom, those pressures pressed down on the tribe. With a series of bangs, a large number of people were forced to the ground. Such powerful divine might, who is it? Hishin and the others were shocked, their eyes unconsciously filled with fear. What terrifying pressure this was! They had never seen anything like it before, and even unconsciously compared it to their own gods, only to discover a horrifying truth: their gods absolutely did not possess such power. Among the crowd, only the Yanhuan tribesmen fared somewhat better, having experienced it once before. Moreover, The confidence brought by their divine power made them appear much more composed than the envoys from other tribes, causing the other envoys to feel both ashamed and admiring. However, not long after the pressure descended, several figures flashed across the horizon. These 4 figures caused the expressions of the Thunder tribe and other envoys to change drastically, while the Yanhuang tribesmen turned pale, instantly losing all color. They stared at the 4 gods in disbelief. They were naturally quite familiar with this powerful pressure, but these 4 were thinking about how their gods had caused such a commotion and taken so long to defeat the evil god last time. And now, 4 of them had appeared at once. Oh no, will the gods be in trouble? Their faces were filled with worry, their hearts filled with unease, and even a hint of despair. A dozen meters in the air, the god of evil glanced at the 3 gods beside him, then turned towards the Yanhuang tribe, a cold smile spreading across his face. He roared, "God of light, get out here, I let you win last time because I was careless. Let's see how you fight me this time." Ha ha ha, his chilling laughter echoed throughout the entire Yanhuang tribe. He's the god of evil, what about the 3 beside him? Their auras are all about the same, can't be, it's over. The envoys, including Heshan, felt suffocated by this lineup, their hearts trembling, their eyes filled with despair. How could they possibly fight this? Thank you Black Cat in the Rain for the 1000 coin reward. Thank you Look at 200 for the 100 coin reward. Thank you Yaoshin for the 100 coin reward. Thank you Black Cat, Greek letter Omega, I'm a little embarrassed by your constant rewards, thank you oh. Chapter 359 Battle. Even if the God of Light is powerful, he can only handle 2 level 7 gods at most, and there are 4 here. With such an absolute disparity in numbers, the chances of victory are pitifully slim. Meanwhile, Black Mountain and the others, listening to the evil god's words, cursed inwardly. Can't beat them, yet shot so much, this evil god is shameless. A dozen meters in the air, the spider goddess scoffed, why waste so much breath? Just kill them all. As she spoke, a purple-black divine light flashed in her hand, emanating a terrifying aura and fluctuations, seemingly poised to annihilate this small tribe at any moment. Everyone below, hearing her words, was startled, feeling a sense of despair. They were going to die. Just as they thought this, an unexpected voice rang out, defusing the crisis. "Spider, have you forgotten?" the evil god roared. "Have you forgotten what I told you? Don't you want the benefits of this tribe anymore? After your attack, those things will still exist." The spider goddess suddenly realized, and said apologetically, "I'm used to it. I almost wiped out this tribe. Luckily, you reminded me." However, even though she said that, she still turned her head and stared at everyone in the Yanhuang tribe with a malicious look, as if she was sizing up who to attack first. Seeing this, Heshan and the others felt a chill in their hearts. At the same time, the spider goddess's words made them realize something. They haven't even started fighting yet, and they're already coveting the god of light's possessions. No wonder the evil god summoned them, they're all equally evil. Just as everyone was thinking this, a white light emanated from the divine stone in the central open space of the Yanhuang tribe. Then, a figure shrouded in white light appeared above the divine stone. This scene naturally attracted the attention of the 4 gods. Just as they looked over, the figure, which was still some distance away from them, flickered and then appeared like lightning a dozen meters in front of the 4 gods. Suyun quietly observed the 4 gods, remaining vigilant. While he was scrutinizing them, the 4 spider goddesses were also watching him. Upon seeing his body enveloped in a hazy white light, their expressions varied, disdain, envy, and jealousy. "You are the god of light," the goddess of desire looked at him with interest, chuckling, seemingly quite intrigued. Indeed, she gazed intently at Suyun's white light, as if trying to see through it to his true form, but unfortunately, she failed. Simultaneously, a peculiar fluctuation of power emanated from her as she spoke, attacking Suyun, seemingly intending to use some method. The other 3 gods' eyes flickered, they immediately understood what the goddess of desire was doing, and they watched the god of light with schadenfreude, ready to see a good show. The strange power quickly enveloped Suyun. However, just as the 4 thought the god of light would be embarrassed, the power, upon approaching him, was suddenly purified and destroyed by the white light surrounding him. What? Although it was only a wisp of the god of desire's power, it was still terrifying, yet it had no effect. The 4 gods looked at the god of light in astonishment, their brows furrowing as they examined the white light surrounding him. The beautiful and alluring god of desire, seeing this, was filled with displeasure. Suddenly, her beautiful eyes flashed with malice. She said calmly, "God of light, not bad, your strength has earned my recognition." The god of evil beside her frowned, wondering what she was planning. Suyun looked at her coldly. The god of desire said, "If we continue fighting like this, it won't be good for either of us. How about this? I'll offer a suggestion that's good for both of us." The three gods of evil immediately frowned. Black Mountain and the others were secretly delighted. This goddess was good. The god of desire smiled faintly. "However, I heard that you killed 3 offspring of the evil god before. That was wrong of you." She spoke slowly, as if bestowing a favor. "Now we can give you a chance, as long as you offer up all your good things and secrets, and kneel down before the god of evil now, kowtow and apologize, then this matter will be forgiven." How about it?" The goddess of desire looked at the god of light mockingly, as if looking at a clown. Her powerful voice echoed between heaven and earth, causing everyone's expression to change. The scene fell silent. Everyone stared at the goddess of desire in the sky with incredulous expressions. The eyes of the Yanhuan people were filled with anger, even the envoys like Hishan were no exception. That was a god. To make a god kowtow and lose all dignity was worse than death. What a vicious fellow. The 3 gods of evil, who had been subtly rebuking her, instantly changed their expressions, their faces now filled with smiles as they looked at the god of light mockingly. The god of evil revealed an expectant and malicious smile, laughing loudly. "That's right, as long as you do this, then I can forgive you. Such a good suggestion, not bad." The spider goddess smiled. The god of fallen agreed. "God of light, what is your decision?" The goddess of desire said calmly. The 4 gods all looked expectantly at the god of light. To be worshipped by a god must feel wonderful. Just as they were thinking this, the god of light spoke in a cold, mocking voice. "Have you finished your nonsense? What did you say?" The god of desire's expression changed. The 3 gods of evil also darkened, staring intently at him. Suyun calmly said, "Since you're so eager to die, I'll grant your wish. If you want to die, then come with me." With that, he moved, soaring into the sky. The 4 gods looked up abruptly, unable to believe his words, their faces filled with rage. For so many years, no one had dared to speak to them like that. "You're courting death," the god of evil roared, furiously giving chase. A mere 6th-level god, the 3 gods of desire snorted coldly, angrily tearing through the air as they pursued. 4 streaks of light disappeared into the horizon with lightning speed. This scene, along with the god of light's words, left Black Mountain and the others below dumbfounded. The god of light is so domineering, they swallowed hard, a mixture of worry and intense admiration rising in their hearts. While they were still in astonishment, Suyun was flying at high speed through the air. He looked down at the 4 figures closing in from behind, saying nothing, only radiating a dazzling light. Below, the 4 gods of desire, rushing towards them at incredible speed, looked at the god of light's slow pace with disdain. At the same time, their faces were filled with murderous intent, their minds brimming with a desire to attack. However, at that moment, the dazzling light emanating from Suyun naturally caught their attention. A scene that astonished them unfolded. The god of light's aura and speed suddenly surged. 3 times. 7 times. 9 times. Boom. A terrifying aura soared into the sky. The already gloomy weather began to change drastically with a burst of Suyun's aura. The dark clouds in the sky seemed to have been pierced by a black hole, and the clouds began to flow upwards. They sensed that Suyun had suddenly become much stronger, his aura approaching that of a 7th-level god. Aside from the god of evil, the 3 gods of desire, whom he was seeing for the first time, immediately astonished him. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 360 Disadvantages. How could this be done? What could possibly increase his power so much all at once? Just as they were thinking this, the god of evil suddenly exclaimed with delight, "His aura has weakened." They were all taken aback. Could it be that this astonishing method wasn't the limit? Last time, his aura was almost equivalent to a 7th-level god. The god of evil breathed a sigh of relief. Sure enough, this method has its limitations. This time it's much weaker. "No wonder you lost," the god of Fallen said. The expressions on the three of them became more serious. So what if he's become close to a 7th level god? The god of desire suddenly sneered. Don't even mention the gap between him and a 7th level god now. Even if his strength reached that of a 7th level god, he would still die under the combined power of the four of us. That's right, the god of fallen agreed. Indeed, the god of evil suddenly realized. The spider goddess, who hadn't spoken until now, suddenly said with a greedy look, God of evil, you really didn't lie to me. This god of light must have a big secret, otherwise, how could there be such an exaggerated method of enhancement? Hearing her words, the expressions on the faces of the four gods were filled with determination, and anticipation rose in their hearts. What secret could it be that was so powerful? Thinking about it, they began to imagine using this secret to advance to level 8, and even level 9, becoming invincible. While the four gods were talking, in a short time, they had already flown millions of meters into the air. Here, the temperature dropped sharply, and a chilling cold filled the entire sky. Suyun looked at the four gods, feeling his power increase by only 9 times, and couldn't help but sigh. Lacking the faith crystal, he was now at his limit. At the same time, the danger had increased, and his already limited confidence had become even lower. Opposite him, the god of desire looked at him disdainfully, a mere level 6 god. Instead of kneeling, you dare to resist. HMPH, ungrateful, the god of Fallen said indifferently. Finished, Suyun asked. With that, he attacked directly. A golden sphere suddenly appeared beside him, and activated the next second. With a piercing sound, a dazzling golden pillar shot straight towards the god of desire's head. The goddess of desire was about to sneer when this unexpected turn of events occurred. Fortunately, she reacted quickly and dodged. Caught off guard, the golden pillar grazed her fair and beautiful cheek, leaving a bloody gash. This scene shocked not only the goddess of desire but also the god of fallen god and the spider goddess. My face, the goddess of desire touched her cheek, instantly erupting in fury. I'll kill you. Her response was met with a beautiful, pale green aurora, which rapidly enveloped them. After penetrating all their defenses, the auras of the four gods weakened by a fraction. The god of evil's expression darkened, and the other gods also looked displeased. The god of evil roared, attack. Instantly, they unleashed their respective abilities. The god of evil waved his hand, and tens of thousands of gray spears appeared. The goddess of desire pointed her jade-like hand, and a pink pillar of light, imbued with lust, struck like lightning. The god of Fallen stirred, and instantly, gigantic black hands appeared beside Suyun, swiftly reaching for him. Suyun frowned. A gray light flashed on his ascension bracelet, and his aura surged tenfold. Then, facing the 3 attacks, and the 30s-aged woman watching intently from the sidelines, his brow furrowed. Golden wheel. Golden wheel. 2 golden spheres appeared, transforming into 2 shields to deflect the attacks. Boom. Boom. The golden wheels shattered after only a second or two. Suyun used this brief moment to dodge the attacks. A look of surprise flashed across the god of desire and the others. Don't be too smug, the god of desire sneered. Sure enough, the next second, the spider god, hiding nearby, moved. A fist-sized, white cocoon-like object attacked Suyun's dodging direction with incredible speed. Suyun's expression changed, and he sidestepped. However, this attack was meticulously planned by the spider goddess, and it wasn't so easy to dodge. His left arm was accidentally grazed by the white cocoon, which then stuck directly to his hand. The next second, the cocoon seemed to come alive, spreading white silk webs from his arm upwards, soon enveloping his entire body. My arm is numb. Suyun felt a loss of sensation in his arm. What made him even more alarmed was that as the cocoon spread, it burst open, revealing countless black spiders, densely packed inside, a terrifying sight. Their black eyes glowed red, and their sharp fangs gleamed purple. The next second, they rapidly climbed down from the cocoon, seemingly about to crawl all over Suyun's body. Children, eat him, the spider goddess smiled viciously. However, the next second, her expression froze, and a ball of white flame appeared on the god of light, causing the cocoon to melt and disappear. Burned by the flames, the little spiders squeaked and curled up, turning into ashes and disappearing. You're courting death, the spider goddess roared in fury. A colossal spider, as large as a small mountain, its body shimmering with a purplish-black poisonous light, charged menacingly at Suyun. He's already poisoned by me, he's doomed, the spider goddess sneered. God of light, You will be eaten by my little darling while your body is paralyzed." Suyun dodged the terrifying attacks, and upon hearing this, he felt the abnormality in his arm. The original cocoon had disappeared, but the paralysis hadn't disappeared. Instead, it began to spread from his arm. Healing spell, a pale green aurora emerged from beside his arm. As the light enveloped it, the paralysis quickly disappeared. However, Suyun still frowned. He could feel that the healing spell only restored his body to a non-poison state, but the poison remained. As soon as the healing spell ended, he would be poisoned again. Troublesome. It will take time to heal. Fortunately, his healing spell only covered his arm, consuming very little divine power, so it wasn't a big deal. His situation was immediately sensed by the spider goddess, the poisoner, whose expression changed slightly. She exclaimed in astonishment, "Why does this god of light have so many methods? Fire and healing." These were her natural counters, and she could sense that even a 7th level god's recovery power couldn't match that green light's speed. "Don't be too late, this kid is a bit strange," the evil god shouted. "Use the divine artifacts." With that, he unleashed his full power. The 2 divine artifacts in his hands flashed. Instantly, his aura surged. At the same time, 2 7th level clones emerged from his body. 6 7th level gods suddenly appeared in the sky. Terrifying auras mingled, pressing down on Suyun, causing his expression to turn serious. "Thank you Black Cat in the Rain for the 1000 coin reward. Thank you Ki for the 588 coin reward. Thank you Legend for the 100 coin reward. Thank you Little Innate for the 100 coin reward." Chapter 361 Various Divine Artifacts. 6 streams of aura emanating from the 7th level god surged high in the sky. The 3 goddesses, including the goddess of desire, were somewhat surprised by the seriousness of the evil god, but upon hearing this, they still took out their respective divine artifacts. The spider goddess held a black spider in her hand, its entire body seemingly made of ink black jade, appearing crystal clear and lifelike. As she activated this artifact, the spider emitted a burst of black light, and then the entire sky underwent a dramatic change. Strands of illusory spider silk spread across the entire sky, naturally including the positions where all the gods stood. With the appearance of these illusory spider silks, Suyun's expression instantly changed. "My speed has slowed down." It was as if there was glue all around him. His dodging was incredibly difficult, his movement speed reduced by at least 2 or 3 times. "Let's see how you run now," the spider goddess revealed a vicious smile. "Go, my darling, kill it," she commanded the mountain-sized spiders to charge forward fiercely. Suyun, who had been dodging casually, suddenly found his speed matching the spiders, and for a moment, he struggled to move. The goddesses of desire, naturally, wouldn't let this golden opportunity slip by, and they made their move. The god of fallen desire took out a black scepter and swung it. Instantly, the world began to change again. A faint black mist covered the heavens and earth. Suddenly, countless illusory black hands reached out from the mist near Suyun. They seemed endless. No matter how much destruction he caused, more illusory black hands would appear the next moment. And once grabbed, his movement speed would be reduced, or he would even be immobilized and beaten. The goddess of desire held an exquisitely crafted pink bow and arrow, like a work of art. She drew the bowstring, and a long pink arrow materialized from energy. Although this arrow was formed from energy, its surface was covered with patterns, exuding an aura of lust. Suyun glanced at it from a distance, and instantly felt a chill run down his spine, a sense of foreboding rising within him. Unlike the artifacts of other gods, which merely served a restrictive function, this artifact gave him a very unsettling feeling. He had a premonition that if he were hit by the arrow, it would be an instant kill, plunging him into an uncontrollable state. The god of evil glanced at the artifact in the goddess of desire's hand and thought to himself, the bow of desire, he had seen this artifact before. Anyone hit by it, even with just a slight scratch, would have the arrow of desire transform into invisible pink energy, absorbed into the body of the wounded. It would then become the most terrifying aphrodisiac, rendering the wounded utterly irrational, turning them into a beast dominated by desire. In other words, a slave to the goddess of desire, completely at her mercy during the effect. Even he felt a chill of dread regarding the artifact's power. Thinking this, the god of evil shouted, "We'll stop the god of light and let desire attack him." With that, he used divine magic to restrict the god of light's movement. The spider goddess and the other spider goddess immediately understood his meaning and began applying negative effects. In an instant, Suyun's movement speed was reduced to its limit. To the goddess of desire, it was as if he hadn't moved at all. "Submit to my arrows of desire." The goddess of desire sneered contemptuously. She seemed to already see the god of light struck by the arrow, becoming her slave, at her mercy, even kneeling before her as his master. The next moment, she released the bowstring, and the pink arrow shot through the air at incredible speed. Suyun, who was struggling to dodge the attacks, changed his expression and immediately brandished the golden wheel, which then transformed into a shield in front of him. Crack! The golden shield was pierced halfway, and the arrow stuck in the shield before stopping. "You blocked it once, but how many times can you block it?" The goddess of desire smiled and continued to draw the bowstring, forming a long pink arrow. Suyun knew that this couldn't go on. While narrowly dodging numerous attacks, he gritted his teeth and used his newly acquired divine magic. Mirage, he reached out and grasped, and an identical pink bow and arrow appeared. He then fired it before the goddess of desire could act, aiming directly at her. And the arrow he fired split once more, becoming 6, one for each person, aimed directly at the target. At the same time, his body shone brightly, his true form becoming transparent within the light, before vanishing without a trace. Invisibility. He then used the mirage, creating 6 incredibly realistic afterimages that reappeared where they were after the light dissipated. In the blink of an eye, all of this was completed in a short time, leaving the god of evil and the others utterly astonished. Looking at the arrows hurtling towards them, the goddess of desire exclaimed, "The bow of desire." Despite her disbelief, the identical appearances made even the goddess of desire hesitant to confront it. Even more shocking was the sight of the god of light suddenly multiplying into 6 out of the corner of her eye. Without time to think, they hastily used divine magic to defend against the arrows of desire. However, as soon as they set up their defenses, the arrows pierced through their shields and continued their trajectory. Instantly, the 4 gods were terrified. It was too late to dodge. Amidst cries of alarm, the arrow of desire struck them. However, just as despair filled their hearts, they suddenly sensed something amiss. Something seemed to be alright. "It's an illusion," the god of evil exclaimed in fury. The other 3 gods, upon hearing this, immediately realized what was happening, their faces turning ashen red with rage. They turned their heads sharply, staring at the 6 figures in the distance. "This must also be an illusion, only one is real," the god of fallen roared viciously. "How dare they play us? Everyone, attack with all your might." Filled with rage, their previous playful attitude vanished, and their attacks surged forth, engulfing the 6 figures. The 6 phantoms waved their hands, simultaneously creating golden shields, making it impossible to distinguish them from the real ones. However, under the enraged onslaught of the 6 7th-level gods, the phantoms were predictably overwhelmed. Seeing this, the god of evil and the others were not pleased. Instead, they frowned. They didn't believe the god of light had been so easily defeated. Sure enough, the next moment, a scream rang out. The goddess of desire, her face contorted with rage, stared intently at the point of attack, trying to locate the god of light. However, at that moment, she suddenly felt a strong sense of danger coming directly from behind her. Taking advantage of their distraction, Suyun silently flew behind the goddess of desire and unleashed his golden wheel, aiming directly for her head. A shrill whooshing sound filled the air. The goddess of desire abruptly turned her head, reacting quickly by shifting her head. Although she dodged quickly, it was still too late. The golden pillar pierced through her ear, and blood splattered instantly. One of her ears evaporated into thin air. "Ah!" A shrill scream rang out. Chapter 362 Imminent Advancement. Taking advantage of her weakness, Suyun, seeing that the goddess of desire had dodged, immediately unleashed his prepared plan, the golden pillar slashing towards her neck. The other gods were stunned. If it struck, the goddess of desire would be cleaved in 2, surely dead. The golden pillar struck down instantly, but then abruptly stopped. It halted at the goddess of desire's neck, completely immobile. "It's this garment." Suyun frowned, looking at the shimmering pink garment. He immediately recognized it as a divine artifact. He reacted quickly, a golden light flashing around him, activating the Ark of the Covenant, rapidly consuming his faith power. The total used jumped from 39% to 47%. The goddess of desire tried to move, only to find to her horror that she couldn't move an inch. The golden pillar beside her neck seemed about to slice into her head. If it struck, she would surely die. Fortunately, the other gods reacted quickly, their deadly attacks instantly forcing back the god of light. Suyun had no intention of dying together with his opponent. His face darkened, he abandoned his attack and retreated swiftly. Too many people, troublesome, feeling frustrated, he released the Ark of the Covenant's restraints. If it weren't for help, this guy would definitely be dead. The goddess of desire, overjoyed to regain her mobility, flashed away, using the brief moment to fly to a distant place. She laughed loudly, still shaken. Ha ha ha, you want to kill me? You're dreaming. Her heart pounded, filled with lingering fear. If it weren't for the divine artifact's protection and the help of others, she would definitely be dead. The goddess of desire, trying to calm her fear, continued to mock loudly. This is the difference between us. You, a mere 6th-level god, what can you compare to us? Trash, you're dead. Looking at the area where the god of light had vanished without a trace, the goddess of desire's face was filled with resentment. The 3 evil gods beside her, while secretly astonished by the god of light's invisibility, were also filled with lingering fear. If that had attacked them, they wouldn't have had the goddess of desire's clothes and divine artifacts. Thinking of this, the 4 gods stared at the empty space, their killing intent surging. Upon hearing this, Suyun scoffed. You dare say something like bullying the weak with numbers? His words caused everyone, including the goddess of desire, to blush and glare angrily at the god of light. Use a wide-range attack to force him out, the god of evil roared furiously. Without his command, the other gods acted accordingly. Boom, boom, boom. Hiding in the shadows, Suyun, seeing this spectacle, could no longer remain hidden and immediately began to resist. Waves of divine power, each hundreds of kilometers in size, impossible to dodge, clashed violently. White, gray, black, pink, and dark purple, all sorts of colors of light crowded and collided in the sky. The sky trembled. Vast energy fluctuations emanated, and hurricanes howled. Even the dark clouds over a vast area were directly dispersed. The commotion from the collisions awakened the beings, causing them to turn their attention in shock. So many powerful beings, what's going on? As they speculated, the battle reached a critical point. Over there, 6 figures launched terrifying attacks, heading towards the direction where Suyun had revealed himself. With so many attacks, even with his immense strength, he would perish on the spot if hit. Left with no other choice, golden light flashed in Suyun's hand, and he was about to use the Ark of the Covenant again. Just then, he suddenly sensed something. A familiar feeling emanated from his divine core. I'm about to advance. Suyun was overjoyed. How could it be so fast? Wasn't it supposed to take some time? It's a blessing spell. Within him, as the small black sphere opened, threads of faith from the real world rapidly connected, perfectly meeting the demand of 10 million people at the crucial moment. Without time to think, he immediately released the restrictions on his divine core. Simultaneously, he activated the Ark of the Covenant. This area cannot be attacked. With these cold words echoing through heaven and earth, the terrifying attacks dissipated a meter away from Suyun. How could this be? It's that strange power. Exclamations rang out as they looked at the blank area that rejected all power. They stared at that area in shock. Quick, continue attacking, the god of evil shouted. As soon as he finished speaking, spears, pink arrows, and other attacks bombarded the area. Boom, boom, boom. With a series of loud noises, the attacks dissipated in that area. The power of faith within the Ark of the Covenant was rapidly depleting, and Suyun, taking advantage of the fact that the power of faith was exhausted, immersed himself in the process of advancement. The booming sounds continued. Let's see how long you can last, the goddess of desire sneered. Although the god of evil didn't know why the situation hadn't occurred as before, he still breathed a sigh of relief. He agreed, this state definitely can't last. A last struggle, the spider goddess said contemptuously. The god of fallen attacked while casually saying, let's discuss the distribution of the spoils. I want that artifact. No, I can't give it to you. The goddess of desire's expression changed drastically. She had experienced that artifact once, and now it had demonstrated astonishing power. How could she let the god of fallen take it? If he did, wouldn't she always be subordinate to him? Absolutely not. She smiled faintly. I almost died just now. I contributed the most here, so that artifact should belong to me. I disagree, the spider goddess said coldly. The god of evil declared, I brought you here this time, so that artifact must be mine. His eyes gleamed with greed. God of evil, didn't you promise to give us everything? The spider goddess questioned. I did, the god of evil scoffed. Soon, they began arguing, as if Su-yun was doomed. Indeed, they believed the god of light would at most struggle a little longer, but with the combined power of the four gods, he would surely die. Their eyes were bloodshot. It must be given to me, while they argued over the ownership of the god of light's artifact, in the empty area, Su-yun, who is invisible, reached a crucial moment in his advancement. Su-yun closed his eyes, sensing everything happening within his body. The purple, occupying 99% of his divine core and characters, completely overwhelmed the last bit of blue. As the divine core emitted a soft hum, a purple flame erupted, and the divine core melted into a ball of purple energy, which then quickly condensed into a solid form. A brilliant blue divine core with 72 facets, radiating light, appeared within the divine core space. The next second, a terrifying power rapidly flowed from the divine core, sweeping around his divine body. Thank you Black Cat in the Rain for the 5,239 coins. Thank you Huangshan for the 4,500 coins. Thank you Begging for More Chapters for the 1,000 coins. Thank you Legend for the 100 coins. Thank you Yingmobing for the 100 coins. Extra chapter tomorrow. Chapter 363 Advancement to 7th Level God. In an instant, Su-yun's power surged more than tenfold from its original level. The immense power impacted his divine body, causing it to transform into an even stronger state. With this burst of power, Su-yun's previous invisibility was directly shattered, revealing his form. The four gods, who were discussing how to divide Su-yun's relics, suddenly noticed his exposed form. Haha, he can't hold on much longer. The god of evil's eyes lit up with joy. He shouted, give it your all, and that strange power will surely dissipate. Die, the god of fallen roared. A cloud of black mist energy appeared directly around the strange area, squeezing inward with all its might. Boom. Submit to my desires. The goddess of desire arrogantly raised her hand and drew her bow, sending a pink arrow piercing the air. Go, my darling. At the same moment, the spider goddess commanded her mountain-sized spiders to charge forward. Boom. The entire gigantic black spider exploded. With the combined efforts of the four gods, powerful energy swept across the heavens and earth, the void trembled, and space itself seemed to distort. The commotion that erupted in that instant even traveled tens of thousands of miles, causing horror among countless beings. At that very moment, the strange area attacked by the four gods suddenly dissipated, and the raging energy surged towards the god of light within. Haha, success, the god of evil exclaimed joyfully. The god of Fallen's eyes lit up. To die by my treasure is your honor? The spider goddess thought proudly. The goddess of desire chuckled, you'd better not die, or I'll lose a slave. Just as they were all thinking different things but were equally delighted, the violent power, as they wished, indeed made contact with the god of light in the next second. However, something unexpected happened. The energy, which shook the void and appeared extremely violent, actually, two beams of light burst forth from Su-yun's eyes the moment it approached the god of light. The violent power within his body made him unable to control himself any longer. Boom. Space distorted, and the boundless power of light allowed him to reach a state beyond his peak at this moment, which then erupted. A strong white light illuminated everything in the world. The surging violent power was swept away by the flood of light power, and the two were locked in a stalemate for a second. With a boom, a huge energy ring spread outwards, and the blinding white light shattered everything. A terrifying aura, along with a massive energy outpouring, was released and erupted from Su-yun's body. Boom. 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 The overwhelming aura swept across the land, instantly unleashing a fierce wind that swept everything in its path. The four gods, who had been grinning and awaiting Su-yun's demise, froze in shock. Sensing the terrifying aura, they cried out in disbelief, impossible, a 7th level god. How could he have advanced? Their bewildered words fully expressed their utter astonishment. He was about to be defeated, how could he have advanced? Just as they were thinking this, a cold gaze swept over them. At the same time, an aura far stronger than theirs pressed down upon them, causing their expressions to change. You are very interested in my things, a cold voice echoed through the heavens and earth. Looking at the imposing god of light, the four gods suddenly hesitated. Then, they exchanged a glance, each seeing killing intent in the other's eyes. Since they had offended him, they had to kill the god of light. If they didn't take advantage of the fact that all four of them were present now, they would never have another chance, and they might even face retaliation, something they absolutely could not allow. The god of evil sneered, mocking, Don't think that just because you've advanced, you can. His only response was a dazzling golden pillar. A piercing sound rang out, and the god of evil's eyes, reflecting the golden light, constricted involuntarily. Move, he roared. He tried to dodge, but was horrified to discover that the golden pillar, which he had previously dodged so easily, was now significantly slower than him. Splat, blood splattered everywhere. At the critical moment, the god of evil only managed to avoid a fatal blow. His arm was severed along his forearm by the golden pillar. Ah! A scream rang out. All four gods stared in horror at the god of light. How could you be so strong? You, attack, the god of evil roared. This shout instantly alerted the others, and attacks followed one after another. Arrow of desire, cocoon devour, hand of corruption, feathers of evil, four-colored energies poured out like a torrent, surging towards Su-Yun. Su-Yun glanced at them lightly, raised his right hand to block in front of him, and said calmly, "Golden wheel." A dazzling golden shield appeared before him. With a collision, boom 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 boom. Loud noises accompanied by massive shock waves appeared. What? The four gods' eyes narrowed, staring in shock at the golden shield that had blocked all the attacks. The goddess of desire couldn't help but scream, "How can the difference be so great?" Su-Yun gently waved his right hand, and the golden shield shattered all the attacks. The four-colored energies immediately dissipated, scattering into four-colored starlight that filled the sky. Walking on the magnificent path, he strolled towards the four gods. "I don't believe it," the god of evil roared unwillingly. Then, including the god of evil's clone, they launched a frenzied attack. Streams of energy poured forth. Unfortunately, Su-Yun's control over energy and divine magic were already superior to theirs. The effects of his blessing spell, the ascension bracelet, and the weakening effect of his healing spell further widened the gap. With effortless ease, he deflected each attack. After a while, realizing that the god of light remained unharmed and completely at ease regardless of their attacks, the god of evil and the others were terrified. "Run!" roared the god of evil. With that, he flashed away, quickly flying off to another location, trying to escape. The other gods reacted quickly, following suit. Although they wished they could annihilate the god of light, given the difference in strength, they decided to leave first and settle scores later. "Damn it, we must summon more gods." They were filled with resentment. However, just as they were about to flee, a cold, ethereal voice rang out. "Do not move." Golden light flashed. In an instant, the rules descended. The four fleeing gods suddenly froze, unable to move an inch. "It's that trick again," evil exclaimed in disbelief. A look of terror crept onto the faces of the four gods, and instinctively, a burst of light erupted from their bodies as they tried to do something. Unfortunately, before they could make a decision, the voice that established the rules continued to ring out. Undefendable, unattackable, golden light flashed, and the remaining power of faith, combined with divine power amplified tenfold, unleashed two more rules. Chapter 364 Crushing. The divine power that was about to erupt from the four gods vanished abruptly. "What have you done?" the goddess of desire screamed. She couldn't believe such a bizarre power truly existed. Su-Yun didn't speak, only waved his hand. The four gods were instantly teleported, appearing 7 or 8 meters in front of Su-Yun. "What are you doing?" the goddess of desire shouted, her voice trembling with fear. The god of evil and the others stared at the god of light in terror. Su-Yun clenched his right hand. White light enveloped them, then began to tighten. "Ah!" Screams and groans echoed through the air as their bodies cracked. "No!" the goddess of desire cried out. "Stop!" the god of Fallen shouted. Su-Yun ignored him, his grip tightening. The god of evil, terrified, felt the third divine artifact on his body flash. "You wait," he was about to say something resentfully. But the next second, he froze. The expected fluctuations didn't occur, as if the artifact had malfunctioned. "What have you done?" he exclaimed in shock. Su-Yun glanced at him coldly. Knowing he possessed special abilities, how could he not tighten his grip on the god of evil this time? Soon, the god of evil and his companions could no longer care about anything else, and pleas for mercy rang out one after another. The goddess of desire, her eyes dripping with tears, looked pitifully at the god of light, pleading, "Don't kill me, I can be your subordinate god." Me too, the god of fallen cried out in a panic. "I'm willing to," the spider goddess quickly said. The god of evil's face flushed red, about to reluctantly choose to temporarily submit. But before he could finish speaking, Su-Yun spoke calmly, "You're not bad, your strength has earned my approval, The four gods' faces lit up with joy, and they subconsciously breathed a sigh of relief. As long as we escaped this time, their hearts were filled with resentment, but as they calmed down, they were also filled with greed. The God of Light's rapid advancement to 7th level god is definitely suspicious. We'll follow him for a while, and once we uncover the secret, we'll invite more gods. Then the secret treasures will all be theirs. The God of Light will deserve to die then. The four gods, thinking similar thoughts, put on fawning expressions. Suyun, with a look of pity, suddenly said, "Killing you is indeed not good. I can give you a chance." "What chance?" the four gods asked excitedly. "As long as you kneel and kowtow, this matter will be over," a cold voice echoed through the heavens and earth. The four gods, who had been overjoyed, suddenly froze. Then, they all simultaneously revealed anger. "What did you say? You want us to kneel?" They were overlords who ruled a region. Kneeling before a newly advanced god of the same level was impossible. Anger overwhelmed them, and their reason almost vanished. Moreover, wasn't this what the goddess of desire had said before? Was she playing them? The goddess of desire glared at the god of light with eyes blazing with fury. Seeing their expressions, Suyun chuckled, then exerted force with his hand, pressing down. With a few soft thuds, the four gods were forced to kneel. Their minds went blank for a moment. "Ah!" the goddess of desire screamed, her face full of venom. "I'll kill you, damn you!" the god of evil shouted. "Die!" the spider goddess said viciously. The fallen god was filled with hatred. Intense anger and humiliation overwhelmed them, causing them to lose their minds. They simply couldn't believe that such a scene would occur. They, who were high and mighty, were being forced to kneel in anger and resentment. Slap, 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 slap. 4 white light hands appeared, slapping them across the face. The goddess of desire felt the pain on her cheek, her face filled with disbelief. The insult of "you slapped me" made the four gods' eyes turn red, as if they were about to breathe fire, their expressions ferocious, wishing they could devour Suyun's flesh and blood. Suyun found it somewhat amusing and continued, "Since you all want my things so much, you can rest assured. After you die, I will take good care of them." The four gods were nearly enraged. A surge of intense resentment and emotion welled up within them, making them want to kill Suyun with their eyes. Angry roars and curses erupted. Suyun had anticipated this. He clenched his right hand tightly, instantly spraying blood. Screams drowned out their impending curses. The cracking of bones echoed continuously as the two avatars of the evil god could no longer hold on, turning into gray energy and dissipating. As Suyun tightened his grip, the four gods' bodies were deformed by the pressure, but their powerful life force sustained them, preventing immediate death. Sensing their impending doom, the four gods screamed their final pleas and curses. "I don't want to die. Don't kill me, you'll end up like us." "No." Suyun clenched his hand one last time, and with a loud crack, the voices abruptly ceased. A few days later, a mass of flesh appeared in the air, and brilliant divine blood plummeted away. "It's over," Suyun murmured. Gazing at the still writhing flesh, he coldly waved his hand, and holy white flames appeared, directly engulfing the 4 clumps of flesh. As they burned, Suyun seemed to hear 4 final screams before the flesh turned to ash and vanished. Within the white holy flames, several items shimmered. Besides 4 storage items inlaid with yellow gems, there were precious divine artifacts: the bow of desire from the goddess of desire, a protective pink robe, the black scepter of the god of fallen god, the ink spider from the goddess of spiders, the leap bracelet, the clone armband, and the special transfer necklace of the god of evil. Looking at these 7 divine artifacts, even the usually composed Suyun couldn't help but smile. He had witnessed the power of these divine artifacts firsthand. To put it bluntly, each one possessed extraordinary abilities. "This is incredible. Even getting rich overnight wouldn't be this amazing," and this was only what was outwardly apparent. There were definitely other precious items within those 4 special items. Enveloped in white light, the 7 divine artifacts were retrieved, and with a flash of light, Suyun put them away. Then, he turned his gaze to the 4 special items. The one belonging to the goddess of desire was a white necklace inlaid with a yellow gemstone. He channeled his divine power directly into it. Soon, his consciousness entered the space within. A quick glance revealed that the space was vast, several tens of meters in size. Various items were also placed inside. "This is..." Suyun took out a very beautiful, feminine pink belt. "This is a divine artifact." He was somewhat surprised. Why wasn't it used in battle, but instead hidden away? Puzzled, he channeled his divine power into it. 10 minutes later, the pink belt flashed, successfully dispelling his divine power. A message flashed through his mind, and he understood the function of this artifact, the Belt of Desire. It could control and increase the primal desires of creatures within a certain range, and also cause specific targets to continuously feel desire for the wearer. It blurred the lines between love and lust, thus indirectly controlling the wearer. Of course, the drawback was also obvious. Due to its wide range, the belt was ineffective against targets of similar strength. A significant difference was required for it to be effective. Chapter 365 Abundant Spoils of War. Suyun suddenly realized why he didn't use the belt. Besides its somewhat lackluster effect, he guessed that whatever the belt could do, the goddess of desire could certainly do as well, making it completely unnecessary. Therefore, it was just a decoration. It's useless to me too, Suyun thought, feeling somewhat disappointed. And this color, looking at that alluring pink, his lips twitched a few times. He couldn't very well wear this and then go and seduce people, could he? Or perhaps he should just dress up as a woman. Thinking about the pink defensive clothing and this pink belt, his lips twitched again. These two items would probably only end up as decorations. Wait, that's not right. This belt might be used to increase the reproduction rate of animals, Suyun thought, stroking his chin. The tribe was currently planting crops, and this thing might be used to raise animals and increase their reproduction rate. His eyes lit up. He thought this was a good idea. If the goddess of desire knew that her artifact was being used for this kind of thing, she would probably be furious. Suyun continued to ponder. That bow and arrow, though pink, is still usable, albeit barely. Judging from his previous impressions, the bow and arrow were quite effective, so it was still usable even with limited resources. After checking the artifacts, Suyun focused his attention on the space. His eyes lit up at the pile of faith crystals in the corner. A flash of light, and a mountain of faith crystals appeared, floating silently in the air, radiating immense faith energy. 131 level 6 faith crystals, 95 level 7 faith crystals. Besides the level 6 and 7 crystals, there was a large pile of level 5 and below. As expected of a level 7 god, after clearing out the contents and storing them in his divine stone space, Suyun turned his attention to the spider goddess's special items. After a quick inspection, another pile of faith crystals appeared. 53 level 6, 61 level 7. Besides these, Suyun discovered that the goddess was truly poor, having no other artifacts left. He continued to plunder, his gaze turning to the evil god's special items. As he persisted, he was somewhat surprised. This evil god is truly wealthy. 209 level 6 items, 100 level 7 items, 1 level 8 item, and a divine artifact. With a flash of light, the divine artifact appeared in his hand. It was a square object, about a third the size of his palm and a finger's thickness, with a pale orange exterior and completely transparent, like crystal. Divine power surged into it. As soon as he inputted it, Suyun was astonished by the divine power stored inside. The quality of the divine power stored inside was extremely high, extremely abnormal. The divine power he had just inputted was like a mud ox entering the sea, not even causing a ripple. This thing, Suyun frowned, somewhat doubtful. He inputted divine power for a while longer, but only a slight movement was made. According to his calculations, it would take a lot of time to remove it. He thought for a moment and chose to give up for the time being. Suyun put the object away and focused his gaze on the last special item. It was a ring. 68 level 6 crystals, 41 level 7 crystals, and 1 divine artifact. Another divine artifact, Suyun sighed. Impressed by the extraordinary resources these gods possessed. The artifact was a black stone, only the size of a fist. Suyun expelled the remaining power within. This time, no unexpected events occurred, and a message quickly appeared: corrupt the target. Upon success, the target will fall, its power will change, and it will receive a unique enhancement. However, due to the authority, this thing is weakly effective against gods, and is more effective against ordinary beings. No wonder they don't use this thing. Suyun's lips twitched slightly. This thing was temporarily useless. He couldn't very well use it to corrupt the authority of light and ruin himself. Suyun tallied the number of faith crystals: 461 level 6 crystals, 297 level 7 crystals, and 1 level 8 crystal. The number of faith crystals is comparable to that of an 8th level god, isn't it? Suyun murmured in surprise. At the same time, he breathed a sigh of relief, his sense of crisis decreasing significantly. With these crystals of faith, I can easily kill an 8th-level god. Of course, this refers to those without any trump cards to save their lives. If they possess strange methods, even if Su-Yun is strong, he will be helpless. After briefly checking the items, Su-Yun moved swiftly and flew back to the tribe. The battle ended, but its effects did not. Within a radius of tens of thousands of miles, beings watched the end of the battle and couldn't help but speculate. Who won? That one with the power of light. Just from what they sensed and saw, they knew that a powerful god had fought 6 against 1. While shocked and amazed, they also felt that the one with the power of light was a bit unlucky. Although he was indeed very strong, it was unknown whether he could survive after encountering so many opponents. They guessed that the 6 gods had won in the end. However, they would have to send someone to check in that direction to draw a conclusion. And after finding out the good news, whether it was to avoid danger or try to make peace, it was worthwhile for them to send someone there. Aside from those far away, even the nearby thunder god and others were filled with worry, sensing something amiss. However, no matter how worried they were, they ultimately had to wait for the messenger's return to find out what had happened. Or perhaps, he simply never returned. Besides these possibilities, the tribe of the evil god, at the same time as the god's death, also fell into panic and collapse, the Yanhuan tribe. Everyone who noticed the commotion in the sky subside felt a jolt of unease, a sense of foreboding rising within them. Could the god have lost? Just as they were beginning to despair, suddenly, a beam of light descended from the sky, a slightly warm white light quickly enveloping everyone. Su-Yun arrived above the tribe, glanced at the joyful expressions of the old priest and others, and then vanished into the divine stone in a flash. The god has won, the Yanhuan people cheered, their hearts filled with excitement. The envoys from Black Mountain and the others exchanged horrified glances, unable to believe that the god of light had actually won. Under the attack of 4 gods, the god of light had actually returned alive, and even won. Impossible, this is too exaggerated. 1 against 4, hiss, gasps of astonishment filled the air. However, no matter how shocked they were, after seeing that the 4 evil gods hadn't descended, they had no choice but to accept the result, no matter how much they disbelieved it. This matter must be reported back so the gods can judge, the envoys discussed fervently. In the divine stone space, after returning, Su-Yun began clearing away the residual divine power of the other divine artifacts. After spending an hour or two, Su-Yun obtained information and effects from all the divine artifacts except for the pale orange one. Chapter 366 Divine Artifact, Pale Orange Crystal Sheet. The information and effects of these artifacts matched Su-Yun's experience, each one possessed extraordinary abilities. Frankly speaking, with these artifacts, his combat power skyrocketed. After dealing with these, he took out the pale orange crystal and began to cleanse the divine power contained within. As time passed, Su-Yun was somewhat amazed, murmuring, "The quality of the divine power contained here is dozens, even hundreds of times that of a 7th-level god. I really don't know where the evil god obtained this thing." After cleansing a little more, Su-Yun had to stop and recover his divine power. It's impossible to remove it in less than a few days, he frowned. However, out of curiosity, he continued to concentrate. He wanted to see what this thing really was. Near the outer perimeter of the Yanhuan tribe. "Yanhuan priests, there's no need to see us off," said Black Mountain, the envoy of the Thunder tribe, with a smile. "That's right, we can go ourselves," agreed the Fire God tribe member beside him. A dozen other tribal envoys also quickly nodded in agreement. "Revered priest, no need to be so polite." Yes, everyone's expressions and words were different from when they first arrived, now filled with utmost respect, even a hint of trepidation. Since witnessing the battle between the god of light and the 4 other gods, they knew this region was about to change, and a new ruler would likely emerge soon. The god of light's strength also made them extremely respectful towards the Yanhuan tribe, not daring to offend them in the slightest. Now, with the Yanhuan tribe's priests seeing them off, they naturally declined. The old priest stopped with a wry smile, exchanged a few polite words with them, and could only watch them walk away. After they were out of sight, he shook his head and walked back into the tribe, sighing inwardly. He was truly a little unaccustomed to being treated with such respect by so many people. It made him feel somewhat strange. Originally, it was their Yanhuan tribe who saw others being respectful, but now the tables had turned. However, He also knew that all of this was brought about by the great God, which filled his heart with reverence. I need to restrain my people, I can't let them disgrace the gods, he thought. Outside the Yanhuan tribe, many tribal envoys bid each other farewell and headed towards their respective tribes. They were to relay what they had witnessed that day to their respective gods. A day or two passed. What did you say? The god of thunder listened blankly to the envoy's report, his mind a complete blank. God, I saw it with my own eyes. That battle was indeed caused by the god of light and 4 other powerful gods, Black Mountain said respectfully. That evil god was also among them, and the other 3 were his invited helpers. As he explained, a look of terror unconsciously appeared on his face, as if he were recalling the terrifying battle high in the sky. Upon hearing this, the god of thunder was silent for a moment, then waved his hand, dismissing Black Mountain. He fell into deep thought, his eyes filled with complex emotions, muttering, "It really is a level 7, thinking that he was only level 5, yet a level 7 god had appeared in his region. He felt nothing but disbelief and shock. At the same time, after confirming the news, his heart was filled with bitterness. The god of light has reached level 7, a sigh followed. His bearded face filled with dejection. In the fire god tribe, not only the god of thunder was emotionally conflicted, but the fire god, upon learning the details, was also incredibly conflicted, yet also relieved that he had chosen to befriend the god of light. How exactly did the god of light advance to level 7, the fire god wondered. Had the god of light always been a level 7 god, or had he advanced in a short time? The former was fine, but if it was the latter? He gasped, not daring to think any further. The 2 were shocked, and the other gods who received the news, the god of gale, the goddess of the forest, the god of hunting, the goddess of beauty, and so on, felt similar emotions, a mixture of amazement and awe. Soon, orders were relayed. The general message was to maintain good relations with the Yanhuan tribe, and when encountering Yanhuan people, one should not be rude or offend them. Regular trade to maintain the relationship was also essential. Time continued to pass, and 4 days quickly went by. While the outside world was in turmoil, Su Yun was diligently expending his divine power. It has to be said that the divine power within this thing is truly difficult to remove. Over the past few days, he's lost count of how many times he's used it to replenish his own power, yet the divine power within remained stubbornly persistent. After replenishing his divine power once more, a glint flashed in Su Yun's eyes. Just a little bit left. A few minutes passed. The pale orange crystal shimmered with orange light, and the last bit of divine power it contained completely dissipated. As this bit of divine power disappeared, Su Yun's divine power surged into it like a tidal wave. A few seconds later, he frowned. The expected information about the artifact hadn't appeared. Puzzled, he carefully observed the pale orange crystal and noticed a detail. He discovered that as his divine power poured in, it was actually compressing, and wisps of extremely high-quality divine power began to appear. These replaced the previous power of the evil god, struggling to occupy the artifact's internal space. Could it be that the information will only appear when it's completely filled? Su Yun's eyes flashed as he secretly speculated. After thinking for a while, he felt this was highly likely. However, this meant it would take an unknown amount of time to fill the pale orange crystal. With a sigh, Su Yun continued to diligently pour in divine power. Reality told him that this artifact was definitely not simple, and he couldn't give up. Time continued to pass, and another 6 days went by. That morning, the sun rose in the sky, casting golden rays. The slight chill of spring was slowly dispelled by the sunlight. Every member of the Yanhuan tribe rose and began their work. Men hunted, women gathered wild fruits, and others washed animal hides and made things. Within the tribal settlement, wisps of smoke rose, and laughter filled the entire tribe. Everyone wore a smile. It was a smile full of security, a smile from the heart. Inside the divine stone space, Su Yun had reached a crucial moment. As the last wisp of divine power condensed and filled the void, the pale orange crystal instantly shimmered with a dazzling, beautiful orange light. Seeing this, a hint of joy flashed in Su Yun's eyes. Just then, a message appeared in his mind with a flash of light. Checking the message, Su Yun exclaimed in surprise, "This is. Thanks to Black Cat in the Rain for the 500 coin reward. Thanks to Shadow Jasmine for the 100 coin reward. The second update will be a little late, I was a bit slow today. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. we warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 367 Divine Artifacts, The Feast of the Gods. This was actually a divine artifact used for communication. A divine banquet. Startled, Su-Yoon tried to activate it. The orange light shone even brighter, and an instantaneous change occurred. Su-Yoon felt a part of his consciousness being pulled, as if it were about to separate and enter this thing, a state somewhat similar to divine descent. After hesitating for a moment, he chose to release control, letting the power of the artifact guide his consciousness. That wisp of consciousness entered the pale orange crystal, and then two feelings arose in his mind. One was filled with a mysterious and ethereal feeling of being high above, the other felt very ordinary. These were two channels to choose from. This thing could lead to two places. Su-Yoon knew that as long as he wanted, he could follow these two feelings to enter unknown territories. After hesitating for a while, anyway, it's just a small part of my consciousness. If it's gone, it's gone. It won't have a big impact. After thinking it over, he chose to enter. However, with a cautious mindset, he temporarily chose the channel that gave him the ordinary feeling. That wisp of consciousness was instantly sucked into the ordinary channel. Inside the channel, he felt his consciousness being stretched and shortened, a chaotic distortion. There was no up, down, left, or right here. Everything was bizarre and surreal. After an unknown amount of time, a sudden feeling of weightlessness washed over him, and Su-Yoon suddenly felt a sense of solidity. How is this possible? Opening his eyes, he looked down and was astonished. He actually had a body. It was a body completely shrouded in gray mist, obscuring everything, even his hands. He could sense that this body was also formed from this mist energy. Moreover, the mist possessed a strong concealment ability, completely masking his aura. In other words, if he didn't want to, no one could see through his disguise. Of course, what surprised him most was that he could sense that this body still possessed 1/5 of his strength, and the strength to use divine arts. A mysterious connection had actually linked this part of his consciousness to his main body. Just as he was examining his body, a voice came from beside him. "Hey, what are you doing?" Su-Yoon subconsciously looked over. Only then could he see the place clearly. Looking around, he saw a tall, gray-black temple, vast and empty, filled with a dark hue. The entire building was magnificent, grand, and imposing, like a legendary palace of giants. He sat in a corner, on a high-backed gray chair, before a massive gray table. On either side of the table, high-backed chairs were arranged, spaced 2 meters apart, roughly 100 in total. At the far end of his line of sight, at the very head of the table, sat another chair. Unlike the simple gray chairs, this one was covered in intricate patterns, entirely black, as if absorbing light like a black hole, deep and dark yet exuding an unparalleled sense of mystery and nobility. Su-Yoon touched the gray table, then looked to his right. In the third seat to his right sat a tall figure shrouded in gray mist. This was the one who had spoken to him. Noticing this person, Su-Yoon looked at the other high-backed chairs and found that out of the 100 seats, only a few gray figures were seated. Including the mysterious seat at the very head of the table, the entire temple was empty. Suddenly, the mature, gruff voice of the man beside him rang out again, this time filled with doubt. "Is this your first time here?" Su-Yoon was slightly taken aback. The man noticed his gaze flicker, and he thought, it must be the way I was looking around that caught his attention. After a few seconds of hesitation, cautiously, he didn't answer, choosing silence instead. The man didn't seem to mind, as if he had already assumed it was his first time, and even comforted him. "Don't be afraid, I haven't been here long either, and I was just like you the first time." Su-Yoon's expression was a little strange. Was this a man who was overly familiar, or a kind soul completely unaware that he had been given the friend zone card? He inquired, "Let me explain the situation to you." Su-Yoon sensed that he could leave at any time, thought for a moment, and said, "Okay." The pleasant voice made the other man pause slightly. "Your voice is very nice," he praised. Su-Yoon was speechless. Before he could express his impatience, the man began to explain. "I've only been here a few days. I was able to get here thanks to a beautiful yellow artifact. I asked the other gods, and they did the same. You also used that treasure to get here, right?" Su-Yoon's eyes flashed, and he frowned slightly, unsure if the man had misspoke. Cautious, he didn't speak, but continued listening to the information. I've learned that this is a place where gods gather and trade. Trade? Su-Yun asked, puzzled. The man explained, you can choose to enter in your true form, or teleport items, so naturally you can trade. He continued, every so often, this place holds a gathering. The artifact will display a reminder, and most of the gods will choose to come here at that time. You can exchange ideas then. If you have any difficulties or need help, you can bring them up at the gathering. If you have any good items, you can also trade them out during the gathering, the man kindly reminded him. Su-Yun's eyes flickered. He basically understood what this place was. He nodded and said, thank you. The man shook his head. It's nothing. Gods like us, ranked at the bottom, need to help each other. Bottom, Su-Yun muttered questioningly. As he spoke, he turned his head and looked around, suddenly realizing something. Only after this guy pointed it out did he realize that his current position, if considered from the very top seat, was indeed at the very bottom. Just as he was thinking this, the man smiled and explained, besides that special seat at the very top, there are 100 seats here. I'm ranked 94th, so I sit here. Aren't you afraid some gods will sit randomly? Su-Yun asked curiously. The man shook his head. Each seat has its own exclusiveness and restrictions. We can only sit in the position corresponding to a rank. Su-Yun frowned and thought, wondering, what's the use of this rank? Each gathering gives out faith crystals. The higher up you are, the higher the level and the more faith crystals you get. Faith crystals? Su-Yun's eyes lit up. He asked a crucial question, how do I improve my ranking? The man pointed to the left of his seat, in the arena of the god of war outside this door. Su-Yun glanced to the left and indeed found a gray door crack. Easily missed you if you didn't look closely. There's a territory outside this door, he thought to himself in surprise. The man chuckled, if you think you're strong enough, you can try challenging someone there. There's a projection inside. The projection is a record of various gods in the arena of the god of war. If you defeat it, you can push the projection's owner down in rank, and your position will naturally rise. As he spoke, the man looked enviously at the seats in front of him, his heart filled with resentment. If only he were stronger, but alas, he was just a lowly 4th level god. Sigh. He sighed inwardly. After a moment of melancholy, he couldn't help but glance at Su-Yun, suddenly feeling a bit of relief. Fortunately, there's someone even lower than me here. I'm not the lowest. Hell, looking at Su-Yun sitting in the lowest position, ranked 100th, his mood eased. Comparison is the best defense. Chapter 368 A Legend of the True God. Su-Yun had no idea what this guy was thinking. He was currently deep in thought. How was this place created? It's a bit beyond common sense. After a while, he turned and asked, do you know who created this place? The man seemed startled, hesitating for a long time before saying, I don't really know either. I've only heard that it was created by a true god. A true god. Su-Yun was somewhat moved. This was the second time he had heard of a true god. The first time was at the sea god's ruins. He hadn't expected to hear the title of true god again here. The man empathized, understanding his feelings. He himself had been confused for a long time when he first heard the term true god. Only after other gods explained the fragments of true god's power did he realize just how strong a true god was and how vast a gap between them was. That's right, it's a true god. The man nodded in confirmation. He thought for a moment, then said, however, this place has no owner. It has been unclaimed from the beginning until now. That unknown true god has never appeared. Perhaps this thing was just an unintentional creation of his, and he didn't care about it at all, or perhaps something happened to that true god, he guessed, and finally said with a self-deprecating laugh, but what does all this have to do with us? Beings like true gods are not the same as us at all. Oh, how so? Su-Yun asked curiously. What do you know? The man laughed self-deprecatingly. What I know is all what those powerful beings told me. I only know a little, and I can't distinguish between truth and falsehood. Just listen to it. As he spoke, his voice suddenly became low and serious. Legend has it that the true gods are different from us. The difference between a 9th level god and a true god is like the difference between a 1st level god and a 9th level god, or even greater. They are terrifying beyond comprehension. If you try to understand them, you can think of them as a phenomenon. If mortals see them, they not only cannot see their appearance, but they cannot even understand them. In severe cases, they might even go mad. He took a breath and explained, you can think of them as being unbearable to look at. They are even a concept, a phenomenon, so they are immortal. Even if their bodies are destroyed, they will be reborn soon. Su-Yun listened in shock, deeply moved. In the sea god's ruins, he had learned from some traces that true gods were immortal, but he hadn't taken it too seriously. Now, judging from this guy's words, the description of the true gods left by the sea god's followers was not only not exaggerated, but actually underestimated. If it's true, the sea god definitely hasn't fallen yet, Su-Yun pondered to himself. He felt that what the man said was probably accurate and matched the information in the ruins, making it very likely that the true god was indeed that terrifying. Looks like I still need to be careful in the future. Now is not the time to be arrogant, Su-Yun muttered to himself. The sense of relaxation and hidden pride that had arisen from his advancement to the 7th level god and the large amount of faith crystals completely vanished this time. My strength is still too weak, Su-Yun sighed. Yes, the man agreed. He didn't know what Su-Yun was thinking and assumed he was shocked by the power of the true god and lamenting his own weakness. If he knew what Su-Yun was thinking at this moment, he would probably spit out a mouthful of blood. They're already 7th level gods, so if they're weak, then what about mere 4th level gods? Wouldn't they be both weak and helpless? The man sighed suddenly. True gods are too far removed from us. Unless something unexpected happens, we'll never have the chance to see them, but we can still see 9th level gods. They are the closest beings to true gods. He pointed to the very front. The very front seats are occupied by terrifying 9th level gods, and even the seats further back are for powerful 8th level gods. If we have the chance, we can even try to get close to them. If we can gain the recognition and appreciation of those powerful gods, there will be many benefits. His tone was full of admiration. Even just being a subordinate god would be good. With our eternal lives, this world is far too dangerous. Having powerful gods protecting us would be much safer. His words seemed to show no aversion to becoming a subordinate god of those high-level gods. On the contrary, he seemed eager to join them. Suddenly, he sighed regretfully. Unfortunately, my strength is too weak. They look down on me. 8th level gods, 9th level gods. Su-Yun frowned, glancing warily at the area ahead. He truly hadn't expected to find 8th level and 9th level gods here. And judging from their words, there were quite a few, not only 8th level gods, but even several 9th level gods. This immediately made Su-Yun even more cautious. He had a very high chance of defeating an 8th level god with his blessing spell, but to say he could definitely kill one was uncertain. After all, compared to them, his time as a god was negligible. Who knew what trump cards those 8th level gods possessed? As for 9th level gods, with a difference of over 100 times, even escaping was a question. Thinking this, Su-Yun suddenly noticed a black chair at the very head of the table and asked, "Whose black chair is that?" The man hesitated. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "Those are the seats for the banquet members. Legend has it that above us, there's a special gathering, with very few members, each mysterious and powerful, known as the Divine Banquet. Compared to our place, the Divine Banquet is the true gathering and legend. Ours is merely an imitation and a forgery." "The Divine Banquet," Su-Yun exclaimed in surprise. Instinctively, he immediately thought of the pale orange crystal shards, and one of the two passages, a mysterious and ethereal one. Could it be? A guess popped into Su-Yun's mind, and he was startled. "You're wrong, this is just a guess, it might not be true." Just as his thoughts were racing, a woman's sneer rang out beside the two gods. Su-Yun and the man were slightly taken aback and immediately looked over. They saw a deity, also shrouded in gray mist, but judging from her slender figure, seemingly a woman, rise from her 89th seat and walk towards them. Watching her approach, Su-Yun asked calmly, "Why do you say that?" "Thanks to Black Cat in the Rain for the 500 coin reward. Thank you Divine Emperor for the 100 coin reward. Thank you Legend for the 100 coin reward. Thank you Wandering for the 100 coin reward. Thank you Covering the Stars for the 100 coin reward." Next update will be a little later. Chapter 369 Challenging Rankings. The female deity glanced at them and said indifferently, "Do you know how long I've been here?" "Over 100 years. In all this time, I haven't seen any members of that banquet descend," she said skeptically. "I suspect this rumor might be false. That seat is reserved for the master of this place." Then, she gave her reasoning. "We have 9th level deities here, even they aren't qualified to sit in that position. How powerful must the one who sits there be? Could it be a true god?" She scoffed, clearly not believing the possibility. True gods are rumored to be terrifying, and not so easily seen. Hearing this, the man couldn't help but say, "If this news is circulating here, there must be some truth to it." "You haven't seen it?" But the 9th level deities certainly have. Haven't the deities never corrected this? That proves the authenticity of the divine banquet. Say what you will, HMPH, the female deity sneered disdainfully. Anyway, I don't believe there's anyone stronger than a 9th level deity, the man frowned. If you want me to believe you, unless a true member of the banquet appears, or you can defeat my projection and force me to believe, I won't believe you, HMPH. With that, she arrogantly turned and left, heading towards her seat. Strange fellow, the man was somewhat annoyed, finding this woman utterly inexplicable. Suyun's lips twitched slightly, but he didn't say anything, instead falling into deep thought. Should I go in and take a look? If he wasn't mistaken, the pale orange crystal he obtained was definitely different from those of other gods. He had thought it was a slip of the tongue when he heard it was yellow, but now it seemed his was somewhat special, perhaps even special enough to potentially allow him to participate in the legendary true banquet. However, even with that thought, the possibility of such a divine banquet made him somewhat wary. What kind of beings were those banquet members, and what level of strength did they possess? Or were they, as the goddess said, true gods? In any case, he was very cautious about that place and hesitated for a moment about whether to go in and take a look. Although there was indeed danger, he was currently just a wisp of consciousness. Dying wouldn't be a big deal, right? They say curiosity killed the cat, and he really couldn't resist the urge to go in and take a look. Never mind. After a while, he shook his head, deciding to familiarize himself with the place first before going in. Thinking it over, he glanced at the empty temple, feeling he had a basic understanding of the place, and decided to go out and explore. He stood up and walked towards the gray door on the left. "Where are you going?" a gruff voice asked curiously. Suyun said calmly, "The arena of the god of war." Oh, the man's interest was piqued, and he stood up as well, quickly following behind him. He grinned, "That's perfect, I'll go see too. I wonder how strong you are, whether you can surpass me. Go easy on me," he joked, "I'm so short, don't you dare push me over." Suyun glanced at him, then looked at the gray door in front of him. He stretched out his right hand and gently pushed, and with a creak, the door opened. Suyun subconsciously glanced outside. The gray sky, even with his powerful eyesight, was only about 1,000 meters high. Ahead lay a gray street lined with ancient buildings. At this moment, several deities shrouded in gray mist were chatting in this area. Suyun's eyes swept across the street, and he suddenly noticed a place resembling a gladiatorial arena on the right. This is the arena of the god of war. With a question in mind, he stepped out. The man beside him followed. As they walked out through the gate, the gray gate, several meters high, slowly closed. However, before it could close completely, a woman's cold snort rang out. "HMPH, I'll see just how strong this guy who's here for the first time really is." With arrogant strides, she took advantage of the gate's incomplete sway and walked out. As Suyun and his companion emerged, the other gods immediately noticed them. However, obscured by the mist, they couldn't recognize who they were, but watched them walk towards the arena of the god of war with curiosity in their eyes. "Is this a challenge?" The gods unconsciously followed. Suyun hadn't walked far before arriving at the main entrance of the arena of the god of war. Looking at the main gate, he was slightly surprised. The gate was covered in silver energy, with a silver vortex slowly rotating at its center. Suddenly, the man beside him slapped his forehead and said confidently, "By the way, you don't have a nickname yet, right?" "Nickname?" Suyun's eyes flashed, a guess forming in his mind. The man explained, "We don't reveal our identities here, so we need nicknames to represent us. You can choose one too, right? You can call me Black Wolf," Suyun said casually after a moment's thought. "Just call me Ember's Radiance." Black Wolf nodded and said, "Follow me." He led Suyun to a gray stone wall not far from the entrance to the arena of the god of war. The wall had white, glowing characters on it, displaying codes and rankings. After Black Wolf gestured for him to read the codes aloud, a completely new name appeared at the bottom of the wall, number 100, Ember's Radiance. Suyun glanced upwards and was surprised to find that the column after the 99th place was blank. No, or rather, up to the 94th place, the column after the rank was blank. Seeing this, a guess popped into his mind. The number of gods isn't full. After thinking about it, he couldn't help but look at Black Wolf and asked strangely, "You were last before." Cough cough cough. Black Wolf suddenly coughed, seemingly embarrassed. After a while, he forced himself to remain calm and said, "I just didn't have time to challenge, otherwise I would have guaranteed to be in the top 90. Tisk, a woman's light sneer came. Suyun and his god turned their heads and saw that the goddess from before had followed them over at some point, and that the sneer was from her. She found it somewhat amusing. Into the top 90, huh? Don't you know that those above the top 90 are all level 5 gods? You think you can defeat a level 5 god? She happened to know this guy in front of her. Not long ago, when he failed in his challenge, she had basically guessed his specific strength. In her mind, he was just a lucky 4th level god who had managed to get into the gathering. So she thought this person really didn't think before they spoke. Putting everything else aside, to join the top 90, one had to get past her first. I think you can only bully the 3 ahead of you at most, she said arrogantly. As soon as she finished speaking, the dozen or so gods watching couldn't help but laugh. Black Wolf's face darkened upon hearing this, and he glared fiercely at the goddess. If it weren't for the difference in strength between the two sides, he would have almost attacked in anger. After a while, he suppressed his urge to attack and turned to look at Suyun. Who are you going to challenge and which ranking? Instantly, all eyes turned to him, their eyes flashing as they guessed his choice. A burly deity kindly reminded him, unknown deity, although you've entered here in your consciousness rather than your physical body, your consciousness will still be damaged if you die. You must be careful. Yes, if it were me, I would definitely challenge those below the 90th rank first. This was a tall, youthful-voiced deity. Suyun fell into thought upon hearing this. Judging from the 89th female deity, those above the 90th were all 5th level gods. This truly surprised him. Suyun thought, going too high is indeed a bit risky. After hesitating for a moment, he tentatively announced a ranking. Being careful is better. I'll challenge the 50th first. The scene fell silent. A few seconds later, exclamations of surprise rang out. 50th. Chapter 370 Challenge. The dozen or so onlookers stared at Suyun in shock. 50? They were speechless, utterly astonished. The female deity thought she'd misheard and hesitantly asked, you mean 50th? A few seconds passed, but there was no denial. Seriously, the female deity chuckled, finding it somewhat amusing. 60th place? That's a 6th level god. You want to challenge them? She simply couldn't believe this guy was a 6th level god, stronger than her. How could that be possible? Or perhaps it was pride and confidence that made her disbelieve the coincidence that this god could be stronger than her. She glanced at Suyun and casually suggested, if your strength isn't enough, you should challenge someone lower. Showing off isn't a smart choice. Beside her, a steady middle-aged male voice echoed, challenging higher-level gods has many advantages, but the experience isn't always pleasant. Yes, challenge someone lower first, experience it, another deity agreed. Black Wolf's eyes were filled with worry. Suyun listened to the words of advice with a slight frown. Everything else was fine, but the female deity's voice made him somewhat uncomfortable. He glanced at her indifferently and said, since that's the case, I'll try a lower-ranked one. A smile unconsciously appeared on the female deity's face, veiled by gray mist. A deity had listened to her words, making her feel somewhat proud and smug. However, her smile vanished the next second. The other deities also looked surprised. Suyun said calmly, I think 89th place is good, I'll challenge that one. Instantly, countless gazes turned intently to the female deity. 89th place was her. You? The female deity's face turned ashen, and she angrily pointed at him. The other deities watched with interest. By now, they all knew that this unknown deity was doing it on purpose. Suyun didn't care about being pointed at. Since he was already annoyed, who cared who this guy was? He gave the female deity one last glance, the 89th ranked deity named Pink Spirit. Then, he stepped into the silver vortex, his figure disappearing instantly. Pink Spirit snorted coldly, arrogantly saying, HMPH, dare to challenge me? Let me see how you win. After saying that, she calmed down, secretly spitting out a curse. Damn it, I ran into a god of the same level. She was slightly annoyed. In her opinion, since he dared to challenge her, he must have some skill, probably also a 5th level god. But winning against me won't be so easy. She curled her lip. She was previously ranked 83rd, only losing and being pushed down. If this guy thinks I'm easy to bully, then he's truly foolish, she sneered. In a flash, Suyun found himself in a place. Looking around, he found it similar to what he had seen outside, a huge building resembling the Roman Colosseum. He was now standing in the center of the arena's open space, having been teleported here. The entire arena was enormous and spacious, its top shrouded in a thin layer of gray mist. Just as he was observing, the void in front of him suddenly rippled, and a ranking stone wall, similar to the one outside, appeared. At the same time, a message was transmitted to his mind. Suyun checked it and found it was the rules and reward descriptions of the War God Arena. According to the information, true bodies are not allowed to fight in the War God Arena, that is, everyone here is a consciousness clone. The rewards will vary depending on the ranking and strength. For example, he was currently ranked 100th. If he defeated Pink Spirit, a level 5 god ranked 89th, he would be rewarded with 11 level 5 faith crystals. Of course, to prevent cheating, if he dropped in rank, he would only receive a reward if he broke his previous record. Suyun couldn't help but sigh. They really are rich. Level 5 was of little use to him, but level 7 and 8 faith crystals would be a different story. Maybe this is a kind of perk. Besides this, there are two other forms of combat. One is a hidden combat, where a gray shield covers the huge War God Arena, making it impossible to see what is happening inside. The second is a visible combat, where one openly reveals themselves. After pondering for a moment, Suyun thought, since it's about crushing weaklings, let's go with a reveal mode. It wouldn't expose anything anyway. Having thought it through, he looked at the 2-meter-high stone wall in front of him and, based on the information in his mind, casually chose reveal over hide, then clicked on the 89th ranked position. Just as he finished clicking, the void rippled, the ranking stone wall disappeared into the air, and the arena of the God of War began to change drastically. The sky above the arena, which had been shrouded in a light gray mist, began to dissipate rapidly. Suyun glanced around and found that although the mist had dissipated, a layer of transparent energy still enveloped the area, isolating it from the outside world. Outside, the gods, who had been chatting freely, looked at the suddenly dissipated mist with surprise. The chosen mode of reveal, this is going to be interesting. Instinctively, they all flew into the sky and looked towards the arena. There stood the unknown god, and then a gray figure materialized from nothingness, appearing before all the gods' eyes. The figure was also shrouded in a thin mist, and its appearance was very similar to that of Pink Spirit. If one only looked at their appearance, it was impossible to distinguish between them. They seemed to have been carved from the same mold. Pink Spirit looked at the chosen mode, her face darkening, and she snorted coldly, feeling very displeased. Want to beat me? Dream on. Just as she thought this, the battle in the arena began. The dozen or so gods all perked up, carefully observing the scene. This is a projection, Suyun said, examining the projection from head to toe. Just as he was thinking this, the energy shield that had surrounded the two figures suddenly disappeared. The battle had begun. Suyun watched with interest, choosing not to attack first, intending to test the female deity's abilities. At that moment, a cold snort rang out, followed by a dramatic change in the arena. Pale yellow flowers appeared in the air. Then, they trembled slightly, releasing an invisible, eerie fragrance that filled the air. Outside. There's something wrong with these flowers, the gods immediately speculated. Pink Spirit smiled smugly. Once you're touched by my fragrance, you're doomed. Just as they were lost in thought, a change occurred that stunned them. Authority related to flowers or plants, Suyun guessed after seeing the flowers. But never mind, now that I know the details, let's end this quickly. Without waiting for the pollen to hit, he attacked directly. Golden Wheel, a dazzling golden light flashed in the blink of an eye. PFFT, a scene that astonished the gods outside the arena appeared. Pink Spirit's projection was sliced in half from top to bottom. What? Instant kill. Thanks to Black Cat in the Rain for the 500 coin reward. Thanks to Missio Surson for the 100 coin reward. Chapter 378 Battle of Instant Kill. Suyun, suppressing over 99% of his power, still instantly killed Pink Spirit. This, every god's face showed astonishment and surprise. They actually witnessed a projection of a 5th level god being instantly killed by such strength. After the initial shock, strange gazes involuntarily turned to Pink Spirit. Just then, as Pink Spirit's projection died and dissipated, a flash of gray light suddenly appeared on the stone wall outside, and then the rankings began to change. The gods looked over. The writing on Pink Spirit's original position of 89th place blurred and disappeared, and then Suyun's code name appeared there. 89th place, Ember Radiance, Black Wolf murmured excitedly. As he spoke, he subconsciously looked at the 100th place. He saw that the position where Suyun had been was now occupied by Pink Spirit. 100th place, Pink Spirit. Ha ha ha, a rough laugh rang out. Black Wolf looked at Pink Spirit and said seemingly casually, "Luckily, I'm not in last place." "I'm so lucky." Pink Spirit looked at her ranking upon hearing this, her face blank with disbelief. "I, 100th, she stammered, averting her gaze with immense frustration and embarrassment. "I lost," she murmured to herself. Falling from 89th to 100th felt like being slapped in the face in public. Black Wolf watched with a secret smug satisfaction. Just then, Suyun, holding 11 level 5 faith crystals, was teleported out through a portal. A flurry of eyes immediately turned to him, their gazes shifting dramatically. Instinctively, they wanted to greet him. However, before they could act, a female voice rang in their ears. "I don't believe it." As their gazes shifted, Pink Spirit suddenly charged forward, plunging into the silver vortex, entering the arena of the God of War. Interesting, this scene instantly made the gods guess what was going on, greatly increasing their interest. Sure enough, to their anticipation, the gray mist of the arena of the God of War dissipated, revealing Pink Spirit's true form. "She really wants to challenge you," Black Wolf exclaimed in surprise to Suyun. Suyun's expression was strange, his lips twitching slightly. Looking at the arena, he couldn't help but think, "I'll also have a projection. Will it possess all my abilities, or just a portion shown?" If it was the latter, that would be fine. If it was the former. Suyun's expression grew serious. At this moment, on the open ground opposite Pink Spirit in the arena, a gray mist figure materialized from the ethereal. "I refuse to believe I'll lose again." Pink Spirit felt it must be the projection's fault. In her mind, even if the War God arena was incredibly magical, a projection couldn't possibly possess abnormal combat intelligence. Its use of divine magic would definitely be somewhat stiff, not as powerful as the true body. This time, as long as she was careful, she vowed to prove herself and win back the faith she had lost. Pink Spirit stared intently at Suyun's projection, extremely vigilant, paying close attention. The protective shield gradually dissipated. As the shield disappeared, Pink Spirit's eyes lit up, seizing the opportunity, and instantly attacked. "A projection is just a projection. As long as I'm quick, my chances of winning are definitely much greater." She snorted coldly and confidently made her move. Instant growth, as her divine magic took effect. Beautiful white vines sprouted from beneath Suyun's projection in the blink of an eye. They rose rapidly, wrapping around and enveloping the projection. Pink Spirit's eyes lit up with joy, and she exclaimed in delight, "It worked!" With the vines rapidly enveloping the projection, one more killing move would surely kill it. While she rejoiced, the spectators outside the arena were also astonished. The timing was perfect, the projection was a bit clumsy. The rankings are going to change again, the gods watched with admiration. However, just as they and Pink Spirit were contemplating, and the vines were about to envelop the projection, and Pink Spirit was preparing to unleash her killing move, Suyun's projection did not struggle, but merely chuckled disdainfully. A golden sphere suddenly appeared beside him, and the next second, a golden light flashed. Pink Spirit's face had just shown a hint of joy when, splat, a black bloodstain appeared on her body from bottom to top. Pink Spirit stared blankly at the golden light before her. Involuntarily, the three thoughts from before replaying in her mind. This time, if I'm just a little more careful, if I'm a little quicker, if I just unleash one more killing move, this projection is doomed. Her consciousness, in a daze, sank into endless darkness. The Pink Spirit consciousness was dead. Before she could even react, she was brutally killed by Suyun's projection. A cloud of gray mist dissipated, and the Pink Spirit vanished from the arena of the God of War. In the arena, the projection of Suyun crossed his arms and said disdainfully, "Trash, you dare to challenge me with this level?" As his voice echoed, the projection gradually dissipated, and gray mist once again enveloped the arena. Suyun's expression was strange. Hearing his own projection's words, he felt a little embarrassed. Is there something wrong with this projection? He was surprised that the projection could speak. But what was even more speechless was that the projection's personality had been made strange by the arena of the God of War. Was he that kind of person? Obviously not. I wonder what the principle behind this projection is, Suyun pondered to himself. He realized that the power displayed by this projection was only a portion of what he had unleashed. He had suppressed his strength before, so this projection only possessed a limited amount of power, clearly only able to replicate the exposed portion. The arena of war was powerless against anything it hadn't used before. Thinking this, he breathed a sigh of relief. Just as he was pondering, The dozen or so gods beside him, who had been stunned, snapped back to reality. Your strength? They looked at Su Yun in astonishment. Another level 6 god. Due to the gray mist, they couldn't perceive Su Yun's strength. In fact, he wouldn't even reveal his aura unless he wanted to. So, after watching for so long, they still hadn't discerned Su Yun's true strength. However, seeing 2 instant kills, once could be attributed to an accident, but twice was clearly not. Especially this time, Pink Spirit was instantly killed despite being well prepared, which spoke volumes. Black Wolf, filled with surprise and envy, asked, Ember Radiance, are you level 6? Su Yun looked at the gods who had gathered around, about to say something, shook his head, and walked back to the teleportation gate. Is he going to challenge again? They asked, their interest piqued. What rank do you think he can challenge? A god nicknamed Mind muttered. 50 or 60, I guess, a god guessed. Amidst the discussion, a burly god named Wrath sighed, if the later challenges go higher, it'll be quite a spectacle. Maybe even an 8th level god will be attracted, it all depends on his strength. Just as the gods were discussing, and Su Yun was about to enter the portal, a commotion suddenly came from nearby. The gods turned their attention to it. There stood Pink Spirit, who had died in the arena of war, then had her consciousness resurrected outside the arena. Her gray misty body reappeared. Pink Spirit was pale, staring at Su Yun who was about to walk into the portal, her face filled with fear and disbelief. Chapter 372 Ranking Rise. Having experienced death once, at this moment, Pink Spirit suddenly had a realization, understanding something. His strength is far greater than mine, this level of strength must be that of a 6th level god. Thinking this, her gaze towards Su Yun was filled with fear and bitterness. At the same time, she deeply regretted unintentionally offending a 6th level god and even losing a portion of her consciousness, all of which could have been avoided. Feeling the gazes of the other gods around her, she seemed to sense the mockery within them. Watching the Ember of Radiance walk straight into the portal without even glancing at her, being so ignored, coupled with the humiliating gazes from all around, she couldn't stay any longer. Damn it, Pink Spirit roared inwardly, turning and running away. Seeing her leave, the other gods didn't pay any attention, continuing to look towards the arena of the gods. Amidst their questioning gazes, a commotion came from the stone wall not far away. 46th place, the craftsman. This is the number 1 guy among the 6th level, a god exclaimed in amazement. He's the confident. Just as they were astonished, the battle in the arena of the god of war began. Su Yun looked at a burly projection opposite him, waiting for the protective shield to disappear. As soon as the shield disappeared, the other side moved. The craftsman's mind stirred, and he cast a divine spell. Items floated around him, a black hammer, a green dagger, a spear. Surprised, Su Yun didn't wait for the figure to make a move, striking first. Golden Wheel, a blinding golden light flash PFFT, the projection, which was about to launch a multi-weapon attack, suddenly split in two, then turned into a cloud of gray mist and dissipated. Outside, on the stone wall, the position of the 46th place suddenly blurred, and Su Yun's nickname appeared on it. 46th place, Ember Radiance. The gods, who were waiting for a spectacular battle, were stunned, and their discussions exploded. Another instant kill. This guy, this Ember Radiance is so strong. That was the number 1 god among the 6th level gods, and he was instantly killed. Doesn't that mean that the unknown god on the arena might be a 7th level god? Thinking of this, they were somewhat shaken. A 7th level god, that's no ordinary person. Not to mention the outside world, even in this place, that's considered above average, infinitely close to the top group of 8th and 9th level gods. Instantly, everyone's gaze towards Su Yun changed again. This kind of strength is enough to attract an 8th level god, the burly god muttered angrily. The god codenamed Mind sighed, as long as we defeat a 7th level god once, things will get interesting. Even 8th level gods wouldn't underestimate a 7th level god. If they could befriend him or even recruit him, it would be a huge gain. War God Arena. After defeating his opponent, the void in front of Su Yun rippled, and one after another, dazzling crystals of faith appeared. 43 level 6 faith crystals. Looking at these, Su Yun suddenly felt a pang of regret. What a loss. If he could challenge a level 7 god, no, a level 8 god, he would be rolling in money by now. Unfortunately, things are different at level 7 due to the rules. The arena of war can only skip up to level 6, you can't directly challenge a level 7 god. To challenge a level 7 god, you must defeat a number 1 ranked level 6 god. Simply put, level 7 gods and above have special privileges, not just anyone can challenge them. They have earned the right to be respected. If it were possible to challenge anyone, information about level 7 and above gods would be easily exposed to lower level gods, hence this restriction. Furthermore, there's another privilege after level 7. For every opponent defeated by his projection, he will receive a faith crystal of the same level. In other words, as long as he's strong enough, he can make a fortune. As long as he stays in first place at the next level, other gods who want to challenge a higher level must defeat that god. Suyun's expression turned strange. He couldn't wait to continue the challenge, and once he reached a certain level, he could reap the rewards of faith crystals. Just as he was pondering this, his figure suddenly blurred, and he was forcibly teleported away. As soon as he arrived outside, strange gazes were fixed on him. Black Wolf's eyes were filled with complex emotions. He recalled how the other god had compared him to Ember Radiance, then sighed and thought everyone was weak and could only be at the bottom. Now, he felt a pang of disappointment. With this kind of strength, even the powerful 8th level gods would be impressed, right? Even if he didn't seek out the 8th level gods, they might come looking for him. In just one moment, he had gotten what he wanted. Black Wolf felt hurt. After emerging from the teleportation portal, Suyun walked towards it again, surprising the other gods. The arena of the gods. Suyun now had the qualifications to challenge 7th level gods, so he casually selected the 43rd position. As for the mode, it had already reached level 7. To conceal any information that might be exposed, he chose a hidden form. The dozen or so gods outside couldn't help but feel disappointed. Suyun examined the newly appeared level 7 god projection, but he wasn't particularly concerned. Blessing spell. All the divine power of his original body was drained and then replenished. To even hide the secret, Suyun shielded the light of the blessing spell. Without the usual dazzling light, silently, the power increased more than 3 times. Golden wheel, poof, it split in 2 again, an instant kill. As the projection dissipated, Suyun showed no surprise and casually put away 3 level 7 faith crystals. With a flash, he was forcibly teleported out again, appearing before the gods. This time, the gods' gazes towards him gradually turned to horror. As soon as Suyun appeared, he heard a series of exclamations. So fast, another level 7 god was instantly killed. Although they hadn't witnessed a battle, they immediately guessed the answer from the fact that Ember's radiance had entered and then emerged so quickly. Another instant kill. Every single one of them was genuinely shocked this time. This wasn't a level 5 god, nor a level 6 god, but a level 7 god. To be instantly killed with such strength, one god couldn't help but gasp. Faced with the shocked gazes of the other gods, Suyun grew impatient and decided to finish the battle quickly. With that thought, he entered the arena of war gods once more. The gods were stunned, subconsciously turning to look at the stone wall. When the rankings of those challenged lit up, they were astonished. 16th place. The first among the level 7 gods. Ember's Radiance's confidence sent chills down their spines. At the same time, the previous instant kills gave them a premonition. Instantly, 7 or 8 of the dozen or so gods took action, using their divine artifacts to send out a message, which even reached the level 8 gods. It wouldn't be long before many gods arrived. If it succeeds, Black Wolf muttered absent-mindedly to himself. Chapter 373 The Descent of an 8th level god. Before long, powerful beings descended one after another. Suddenly, the area outside the arena of war gods became bustling with activity. Including the previous arrivals, there were over 50 people who had witnessed it, all staring in astonishment at the stone wall. Among them, 2 stood out. These 2 deities were gathered around by other gods, who were respectfully explaining the events to them. What? Interesting, the being nicknamed Harvester among the 2 chuckled softly. He looked at the embers displayed on the stone wall with great interest. Another illusory 8th level god, surrounded by the other gods, said calmly, daring to challenge the top-ranked 7th level god, the replacer. He must be very confident. I just wonder if he's being reckless. Probably confident. Harvest stroked his chin and said, Ember's Radiance can easily defeat a 7th level god projection. Who's stronger between the replacer and him? We'll have to fight to find out. Is that so? The illusory god said calmly. Now that you mention it, I'm intrigued. Want to guess who's right? If I win, you give me 5 8th level faith crystals. If I lose, I'll give you 5 too. How about it? Harvest glanced at him and chuckled. Sure, the other 50-odd gods who were watching became interested and started betting as well. The gods formed teams, some betting on Su-Yun to win, others on the replacer. However, in terms of choice, the replacer was more popular. Only a small portion chose Amber's radiance. The dozen or so gods who had been betting earlier still made up the majority. Compared to the replacer, who had always held sway over numerous level 7 gods and boasted countless victories, Amber's radiance was still lacking and not trusted by them. In the arena of the gods, Su-Yun looked at the projection opposite him, a hint of wariness in his heart. To hold first place among the level 7 gods was something he needed to take seriously. Just then, the protective shield disappeared. Golden wheel, Su-Yun preemptively struck, preparing to instantly kill this guy. A dazzling golden light flashed. Under Su-Yun's gaze, a golden, glazed pillar attacked the replacer directly. However, in the next instant of the attack, the replacer vanished from Su-Yun's side in the blink of an eye. Su-Yun abruptly looked up, staring at the replacer who had appeared a dozen meters above him. Teleportation, he thought immediately, but then, remembering the guy's nickname, he dismissed the idea. Clearly, this guy's nickname was related to his authority. He probably swapped places with something in that instant. Just as he pondered, the replacer above him began to move. He reached out and grasped, and a long sword formed from divine power appeared in his hand. Then he slashed forward with his sword. The sound of a sharp weapon cutting through the air rang out. Su-Yun was puzzled for a moment, then his expression suddenly changed. In a flash, his body was thrown from its original position. As soon as he came to his senses, he was startled by the long sword that was about to strike him. It was possible to do that subconsciously. A shield formed from a golden wheel appeared in front of him. A crisp collision sounded. That was close, Su-Yun thought to himself. At this moment, a surprised voice came from ahead. The projection swapper murmured incredulously, "How can the consumption of divine power be so great?" As he spoke, he stared intently at Su-Yun. Just now, it was only a simple position swap, and the consumption of divine power from a single divine spell had increased so much? However, "Under my divine spell, you cannot win," he said confidently. Then, Su-Yun suddenly felt that the divine power within his body had inexplicably decreased by a large margin. The swapper had just exchanged the total divine power within their bodies when he was immediately astonished by the overflowing divine power within him. He exclaimed in surprise, "Your total divine power is so much?" Then, he became overjoyed. "You will surely be defeated by me." Su-Yun was enraged. How could he exchange divine power with such a powerful invisibility technique? The next moment, his figure vanished rapidly, disappearing from the swapper's sight. What? The projection's expression changed drastically. He immediately turned his head and looked around, even probing for Su-Yun's aura, trying to find his location. Unfortunately, no matter how he searched, he couldn't find a trace of his figure or aura. Just then, a strong sense of crisis struck him. Instinctively, he wanted to switch positions, but, splat, a golden pillar pierced through his skull. Su-Yun stood a step away from the swapper, coldly watching him. With a difference of several times the strength, the golden wheel's extremely fast speed, and the distance being too close, the opponent didn't even have the chance to activate a divine technique. The swapper was filled with resentment. He still had tricks up his sleeve. Watching the dissipating projection, Su-Yun shook his head. Truly troublesome. This was the first time he'd seen such a shameless ability. Sure enough, those qualified for first place were never simple. He even suspected that if it weren't for a one-hit kill, they could probably swap even injuries. However, there are definitely some limitations, Su-Yun pondered. For example, authority and divine arts definitely can't be swapped, and judging from the previous words, the exchanged items would definitely increase in difficulty based on the target, thus increasing the divine power consumed. At this moment, a wave of light rippled through the void, and 27 level 7 faith crystals appeared before him. Su-Yun shook his head, no longer thinking about it, and reached out to collect the faith crystals. Outside, the 50-odd gods staring at the ranking wall suddenly froze. The 16th position had been changed to a different name, Ember's Radiance. He won, he defeated the swapper. Exclamations of surprise rang out, their hearts filled with disbelief. Even the 8th level god Harvest, who was quite impressed by Amber Radiance, exclaimed in surprise, "How did he do that?" He stared intently at the gray mist barrier in the arena of gods, wanting to see what was happening inside. He was genuinely curious about how Ember Radiance had managed it. He actually won. Illusion frowned. Hearing his voice, Harvest chuckled and held out his hand. My stuff, HMPH. Illusion snorted coldly and waved his hand, sending 5 8th level faith crystals flying out. Harvest happily collected them. Illusion ignored him, frowning. When I have time, I must find a god to test this Ember Radiance. Due to the hidden form, he hadn't seen the battle at all, and a sense of threat immediately arose in his heart. A guy who could occupy the first position among the 7th level gods had a high chance of advancing. Even if he advanced in the future, he wouldn't be too weak among the 8th level gods, and would definitely rank among the top. At this moment, a fluctuation appeared, and the appearance of a figure immediately interrupted his thoughts. Suyun had been repelled from the arena of gods. Instantly, a barrage of gazes, some filled with amazement, others with admiration, fixed their gazes on him. Thank you for the 300 coin reward. Thank you for the 100 coin reward. Thank you Monsieur Surson for the 100 coin reward. Forgive me, I really will make up for it later. I owe 2 more chapters. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 374 Level 9 God Nightmare Overlord. As soon as Suyun emerged, he heard a voice of praise. Turning around, he saw a tall figure surrounded by gods. Impressive, the Harvester, toying with 5 level 8 faith crystals, praised him. A flicker of wariness crossed Suyun's mind. He thought, level 8 gods are still. Just as he hesitated, another voice, faintly tinged with arrogance, rang out. You, not bad, barely passable, the illusory figure said calmly, looking at him. His tone was full of superiority and arrogance, as if Suyun's mere presence was the greatest favor he could bestow. And in fact, that was exactly what he thought. However, the illusory figure narrowed his eyes. Considering the powerful strength and potential of this Ember Radiance, your strength is not bad. Would you be interested in joining His Highness the Nightmare Overlord's ranks? The illusory figure suddenly asked. As soon as he finished speaking, a series of gasps of astonishment rang out. Hiss, no way, Your Highness Nightmare Overlord. The illusion actually invited this 7th level god to join the Nightmare Overlord's ranks. Incredulous words echoed. Clearly every god was shocked. Suyun listened to the surrounding voices, his brows furrowing imperceptibly, and asked with feigned doubt, Your Highness Nightmare Overlord. That's right, the illusion nodded, then, realizing he might not recognize him, proudly stated, only 9th level gods can be addressed as Your Highness, and the Nightmare Overlord is a noble 9th level god. Even here, the Nightmare Overlord is one of only 3 Your Highnesses. His words were filled with longing. The other 50-odd gods, upon hearing this, also revealed expressions of awe. Apart from the almost impossible, legendary true gods, as the pinnacle of the gods, the 9th level gods, as evidenced by the honorific title Your Highness, were incredibly special and noble. Each 9th level god was powerful and terrifying, extremely rare, and ranked at the top of the gods. It could even be said that they themselves were synonymous with antiquity. To become a 9th level god, one must spend a vast amount of time, accumulating merit through the souls of departed believers. The time required, even though they spend most of their time in slumber, the accumulated power of countless years is enough to make them appear mysterious and powerful. Therefore, all the gods here are well aware of the enormous gap between themselves and 9th level gods. Even 8th level gods are worlds apart from 9th level gods. After all, one is still one step away from the limit of godhood, while the other already possesses the qualifications to approach the ethereal realm and power of true godhood. After introducing the 9th level gods, the illusory figure looked at Suyun and said calmly, with your 7th level god strength, if it weren't for your considerable potential, you wouldn't even be qualified to join. You should think it over. Well, have you considered it? Though it was said as a question, the illusory figure was absolutely certain that this 7th level god named Ember Radiance would agree. The protection of a 9th level god is something countless gods would crave. How could any god refuse? Just as he was thinking this, the nearby gods also spoke up one by one. Don't hesitate. Such a good opportunity. As long as you become a subordinate god, you'll receive protection. Where else can you find such a good deal? The burly god roared angrily. Seeing Suyun's silence, he felt anxious for him. Yes, if we had the chance, We wouldn't hesitate at all, the god-named minds said enviously. Envious gazes were cast upon Su-yoon. At this moment, they wished they could take his place. Urging words continued to ring out, but Su-yoon's continued silence gradually quieted the gods. The illusory face froze, staring incredulously at the ember radiance. What was there to hesitate about? In fact, Su-yoon was only thinking about how powerful a 9th-level god was. He hadn't even considered the hesitation they had felt, and hadn't even considered the so-called subordinate godship. It's your honor to join His Highness the Nightmare Overlord's ranks. Don't be ungrateful, the illusory god frowned and shouted. Su-yoon, who was deep in thought, snapped out of his reverie upon hearing this and coldly replied, no interest. His voice echoed around him, clearly heard by the gods, whose faces immediately contorted with astonishment and disbelief. Before the illusory being could utter a word of anger or shock, the other gods serving under the Nightmare Overlord were the first to rebuke him. A 7th-level god, and you dare refuse? Do you know what you said? You're turning down such a golden opportunity. Do you really know what a 9th-level god means? A barrage of mocking words followed. Those gods who longed to join but lacked the opportunity were now consumed by jealousy. Harvest, also an 8th-level god, looked at him in surprise and laughed. Illusion, you finally got rejected, huh? Haha, HMPH, Illusion snorted coldly, glanced at Su-yoon mockingly, and said disdainfully, just a guy who doesn't know how powerful Nightmare Lord is. I didn't care. His rejection only shows his ignorance. Finally, he sneered at Su-yoon, you don't know what's good for you. You'll regret your decision sooner or later. In his opinion, this guy must be entering this place for the first time and didn't realize the terror of a 9th-level god, which is why he was so ignorant. Once he knew how powerful Nightmare Lord was, he would regret it sooner or later. However, joining Nightmare Lord's ranks wouldn't be something he could do so easily. He admitted that this 7th-level god had good potential, but in the end, he was still just a 7th-level god. Compared to Nightmare Lord, he was far inferior, even compared to himself. His rejection of Ember Radiance was not only a lament about ignorance, but also a source of embarrassment and anger at being refuted. However, Su-yoon, whom he had looked down upon, didn't even glance at him this time, turning around abruptly. You, Su-hoon frowned, about to reprimand him. However, when he saw the direction Su-yoon was heading, his expression froze. His first reaction was that he was overthinking it, but after Su-yoon truly disappeared from the teleportation portal, his brows furrowed. He's going to challenge again, a level 7 god challenging in level 8, incredulous exclamations rang out. Due to the special nature of the stone wall after reaching level 7, the first place in level 7 could only be held by a level 7 god. If this Ember of Radiance were in level 8 god, he certainly wouldn't be able to occupy the first place. The level and quality of divine power couldn't be hidden from the arena of the gods, so the special mark for the first place on the stone wall was still there, immediately making them realize that Ember of Radiance was definitely still level 7. So this was preparing to fight a level above his own. How so arrogant, Su-hoon scoffed lightly. Chapter 375 8th place. Maybe he's just confident, Harvest retorted with a grin. HMPH, you think that's possible? Illusion scoffed. This guy probably just wants to experience the power of an 8th-level god, but that's fine too. After losing, he'll realize the gap between him and us, and even the Nightmare Lord, and he won't be so arrogant. Who do you think he'll choose? Harvest suddenly asked. Probably the last one. Illusion was about to say something without thinking. However, before he could finish speaking, the scene before him instantly filled him with shock and anger. On the ranking stone wall, his name, representing his 8th place ranking, suddenly lit up. What this meant, every god present understood. Fine, dare to challenge me, Illusion laughed angrily, his heart filled with extreme rage. This Ember of Radiance was truly overestimating himself. In his view, challenging someone ranked 15th, the last among the 8th-level gods, was already incredibly audacious. Unexpectedly, the one who dared to challenge them, and by such a coincidence, chose them of all people, this was a direct provocation. The gods exclaimed, marveling at the audacity of this Ember Radiance. At the same time, they were filled with anticipation, eager to witness the battle. Unfortunately, Su-yoon had chosen the hidden mode, so they couldn't see the battle unfold and could only feel disappointed. In the arena of the gods, Su-yoon's expression turned serious as he watched the gray projection gradually emerge opposite him. Having made the challenge, he naturally wouldn't be careless, His main body was already prepared. As a nouveau riche, he had crushed all 461 level 6 faith crystals and 1 level 8 faith crystal. Even as a precaution, Su-Yun had teleported all the faith crystals he had previously obtained back to his main body for absorption. With all the faith power of the little black ball, the divine power that erupted in that instant, Su-Yun directly cast a blessing spell on himself, a 16-fold blessing spell. Feeling the power within him, now almost indistinguishable from that of an 8th level god, Su-Yun couldn't help but sigh regretfully. It's a pity I can't use divine artifacts here, otherwise I could use the Ascension Bracelet to triple the power. He paused slightly. Wait, when the power increased by the Ascension Bracelet was applied to his main body, his divine power also increased threefold. Although he was using a consciousness avatar now, he was using the divine power of his main body. Thinking of this, he involuntarily took a breath, his heart trembling slightly. Without a word, his main body immediately put on the 2-in-1 Ascension Bracelet. 19 times. Su-Yun felt that, without exaggeration, his power had now surpassed that of an 8th level god. Looking at the projection that was preparing to attack, Su-Yun declared that this battle was easy. That's the challenger, humph, the illusory projection sneered disdainfully. Then, an unbelievable scene appeared. Another illusory figure suddenly appeared. Looking at the 2 8th level gods in the air, Su-Yun frowned. A beam of white light filled the entire arena of war gods, blasting forth in the next instant. Space distorted where the light passed, its power immense. The 2 illusory projections, not to be outdone, instantly launched a counterattack. 2 semi-transparent divine power attacks met the white light head-on. Boom! 2 deafening roars echoed as the white and transparent beams occupied both sides of the arena, the energy shockwaves scattering and impacting the surroundings. Fortunately, a thin energy membrane protected the arena, preventing damage, otherwise, the entire arena would have collapsed. What? The illusory projections were shocked by the equally powerful attack. They had 2 beams, equivalent to 2 level 8 god attacks. Yet, even so, they couldn't gain the upper hand. Let's see how many you can take on. After a cold laugh, a terrifying scene unfolded. The 2 illusory projections suddenly transformed into 4. With the attacks of these 4 level 8 gods, Su-Yun was completely overwhelmed. Something's wrong. Su-Yun immediately sensed something was amiss. After a moment's thought about the divine title, he suddenly understood something. These must be fake. But something's not right. How can something fake create a real effect? Could it be? An unbelievable thought arose in Su-Yun's mind. Just as this thought surfaced, a gasp came from the opposite side. The attacks of 3 of the 4 figures had lost their original effect, appearing as if they were illusions. As long as I believe, it is real, Su-Yun murmured. The projected illusion was completely astonished, seemingly not expecting its moves to be so easily countered. Fortunately, the distinction between truth and falsehood wasn't so easily discerned. Next, various bizarre attacks appeared, along with countless illusions to confuse, and the projected illusion even managed to unleash some real attacks. Then, Su-Yun grew impatient and directly used the Mirage Divine Art and Invisibility technique, combined with Healing Weakness technique and the Golden Wheel, instantly killing the shocked figure. The projected illusion felt disbelief, its form gradually turning into gray mist and dissipating. A ripple appeared in the void, and 8 level 8 faith crystals appeared. Su-Yun put them away, waiting for the rejection to occur. When a scene that made him frown appeared, his figure showed no signs of rejection. Then, a stone wall suddenly appeared. Su-Yun looked closely and saw his and the illusory's names flashing and changing, but the rankings didn't change for a long time. This is a malfunction, Su-Yun said with a strange expression. The stone wall had crashed, an unprecedented event of crossing ranks had occurred, causing it to malfunction. Half a minute later, the stone wall returned to normal and stopped flashing, but the rankings displayed were abnormal, leaving Su-Yun stunned. I've taken 2 spots, his 2 names appeared on the rankings. As for the illusory one, it had moved to 16th place. Su-Yun's lips twitched, exclaiming that the stone wall was an expert. This malfunction was truly impressive. While he was speechless, the outside world was stunned and shocked by this scene. The gods stared blankly at the stone wall, at the changing rankings. 8th place, Ember's Radiance. 17th place, Ember's Radiance. The 2 level 8 gods surrounded by the gods had their expressions change one after another. This harvest was full of astonishment. Impossible, Illusion's face showed horror. Chapter 376 3 Level 9 Gods, 4,000 words. Impossible. How could a level 7 god defeat me? The illusory god shouted in shock and anger. Could he be an level 8 god? No, no. After a few seconds, looking at the stone wall, he rejected the possibility again. But that only made it more unbelievable to him. The other 50-odd gods were in a similar state, their eyes wide open. Unlike the previous level 7 gods, this was a powerful level 8 god, one of the very elite at the top of the pantheon. Yet even so, they had all lost to level 7 god. What this meant was clear to all the gods present. Having this ability to fight beyond one's level was beyond mere potential, it was a freakish existence only found in legends. At the same time, the gods recalled their earlier mockery, which they had dismissed as ignorance. Now they realized that perhaps the other party hadn't taken the illusory god's words seriously at all. This isn't ignorance, perhaps he truly didn't take the illusory god's words to heart, all the gods gasped. They belatedly realized that with such a power to turn the tide, perhaps the Ember Radiance could reach level 9 and become a dazzling prince? Others might not be able to do it, but this Ember's Radiance has a very high chance. The burly god roared in fury, then suddenly murmured in shock, a level 7 can defeat a level 8, what about a level 8? Yes, what about a level 8? As soon as he finished speaking, another series of gasps rang out. Could this person be able to challenge a level 9? Terrifying, utterly terrifying. Those are level 9 gods, hanging like stars in the sky. Just thinking about being defeated by this Ember's Radiance sent shivers down the spines of the gods. The two level 8 gods, Harvest and Illusion, were even more shaken, a sense of fear creeping into their hearts. Just then, the gods suddenly saw a ripple in the void. The Ember's Radiance had emerged from the arena of war. Looking at this powerful being with the strength of a level 8 god, every god was stunned, and the scene fell silent. Then, they watched in disbelief as the Ember's Radiance once again walked towards the arena of war. Instantly, their expressions changed. Under their dumbfounded gazes, Suyun disappeared into the teleportation portal. Then, a spot on the stone wall lit up. 4th place, Anmian. He's challenging Anmian, Harvest exclaimed, deeply moved. The other gods were also shocked. As the Nightmare Lord's most capable subordinate, Anmian was arguably the strongest 7th level god. And this Ember's Radiance was actually challenging him. Logically, they should have laughed at Ember's audacity, but remembering his terrifying past victories, they couldn't laugh this time. Their hearts were filled with uncertainty about the battle. They weren't sure who would win. It should be Ember's Radiance, right? I think it's Anmian. Just as everyone was intently watching the stone wall, Suyun began his battle in the arena of the gods. The entire battle was evenly matched, and he almost lost to his opponent. Various methods of inducing sleep kept him drowsy. If it weren't for his superior strength surpassing Anmian's, coupled with his unreserved use of all his techniques to quickly eliminate him, the outcome would have been truly unpredictable. A little later, Suyun murmured, watching the dissipating gray mist. If it were any slower, I would have just fallen asleep. This guy with the power of slumber truly lived up to his reputation. A ripple appeared in the void, and 4 level 8 faith crystals appeared. 12 now, Suyun's lips curled up slightly. As the results appeared, the rankings on the stone wall began to change. 4th place, Ember's Radiance. The first among level 8 gods, the first among 3 level 9 gods. He beat him again. How did he do that? Illusion was incredulous. Defeating him was one thing, but also killing the Nightmare Overlord's #1 subordinate, he was in disbelief at such strength. Suyun's vision blurred, and he reappeared outside the arena of the God of War. As soon as he came out, he heard a loud question, I don't believe it. What did you do? How could you defeat Anmian? Illusion looked at him in shock and anger, thinking that this guy must have cheated, otherwise how could he defeat him and even Anmian? What cheating methods did you use? In an instant, the scene fell silent. Hearing the illusory words, a hint of hesitation and suspicion arose in the hearts of each god. Why was this Ember of Radiance so strong? Had it used any cheating methods? Since the arena of war did not display the battle process, they couldn't help but be suspicious. Yes, why is it so strong? Cheating. Could it be that it used a divine artifact? Are you stupid? How can you use a divine artifact in the arena of war? That's true. A series of surprised and suspicious guesses continued to emerge. Suyun was amused by these comments and chuckled, if you don't believe me, you can try challenging me. With that, He ignored the angry and alarmed illusory figure and turned to look at the three beings ranked above him. Third place, Goddess of Winter. Second place, Lord of Misfortune. First place, Lord of Nightmares. Just by looking at their names, Su-Yun could see the power of these three. Or rather, they didn't bother to hide it at all. Should I challenge it and give it a try? Su-Yun pondered for a moment. A few seconds later, he shook his head slightly. He didn't even need to challenge it, he had already foreseen the outcome. There would be no other result than being overwhelmingly crushed. At this moment. "Ha, you," Virtual laughed in fury. "You think I wouldn't dare? Fine, I'll see what kind of cheating you're using." Su-Yun glanced at him, smiled faintly, and decided to ignore him, already considering leaving. "Try it if you want, I have something to do, so I won't keep you company." With that, he prepared to leave, his gray mist body becoming ethereal. Virtual's face turned incredibly ugly. But then, dozens of figures descended from afar, immediately drawing his attention. He only glanced at them once before noticing two figures respectfully surrounded by the gods. These two figures gave off a very special feeling, so special that Virtual seemed inadequate compared to them. In an instant, his heart skipped a beat. Ninth-level gods, the thought immediately popped into his head. After taking one last look at the two ninth-level beings, Su-Yun's gray mist body completely dissipated. Exclamations rang out. "Gone." Harvest frowned. Virtual smiled coldly, thinking that this guy was afraid. However, the arrival of the ninth-level God Lord left him no time to speak, and he hurriedly walked towards the ninth-level God Lord. "Your Highness Nightmare Overlord," Illusion said respectfully to one of the two beings, a tall and imposing figure. Harvest, standing beside him, said to the other being, a very slender figure, "Your Highness Goddess of Winter." Goddess of Winter's voice was clear and melodious. She looked with great curiosity in the direction where the gods were. Nightmare Overlord on the other side nodded, then his gaze passed over Illusion and looked ahead as well. "Gone," he said, frowning. "That seventh-level god with the strength of an eighth-level god, just left like that." Upon hearing this, Illusion immediately sensed the displeasure in Nightmare Overlord's words. Illusion quickly shook his head and said, "Your Highness Nightmare Overlord, we don't even know if that guy is that strong. I suspect he used some kind of cheating method." "Oh?" Nightmare Overlord raised an eyebrow, somewhat puzzled by his statement. "That guy also defeated Anmian." "You said he defeated Anmian?" Nightmare Overlord was shocked. Not only him, but even the nearby Goddess of Winter was astonished upon hearing this. Before coming, they had only received news that a seventh-level god had defeated the illusory eighth-level god, which was why they had descended. But now, they heard from the illusory god that the Ember of Light had also defeated Ansem, which made them even more astonished. Not only could he challenge an eighth-level god, but he was also the strongest among the eighth-level gods. How did he do that? The two ninth-level gods felt it was unbelievable. They asked themselves that even they, at the seventh level, could not have done such a thing. This showed how extraordinary the Ember of Light was. Knowing that these two beings would be shocked, the illusory god quickly continued, "So I suspect that the Ember of Light used some strange means to cheat, and I plan to send other gods to the arena of gods to test his projection." "It's good to test it," the Nightmare Overlord nodded. The illusory god, having received confirmation, turned to look at one of his subordinates standing among the gods. Looking at his seventh-level divine subordinate, he instructed, "It just so happens that the Ember of Radiance somehow occupied an extra seventh-level spot, so you can challenge it." "Okay," the tall figure nodded, quickly walked towards the teleportation portal, and then disappeared from the side of the gods. Just then, a deep, middle-aged man's voice came from afar. "You didn't even call me for something like this." Nightmare Overlord and Winter Goddess frowned instantly upon hearing this, then looked over. The Lord of Misfortune, the two of them were filled with apprehension. Although the Lord of Misfortune's combat strength was only ranked second, in terms of troublesomeness, he was definitely the first among the three of them. Neither Nightmare nor Winter Goddess wanted to provoke him. The Lord of Misfortune approached, his voice containing amusement. "I've heard that an interesting god has arrived." This special being, even if only at the seventh level, was enough to attract his attention. As he spoke, he saw the gray mist obscuring the arena of war dissipate and exclaimed in surprise, "Oh, it started? I'd like to see what he's capable of." Hearing this, Nightmare and Winter turned to look at the arena of war, watching intently. The 80 or so gods present stared intently at the center of the arena. The projection of Su-Yun gradually appeared, his arms crossed as he looked at the tall figure opposite him. "You?" The filth looked at the figure before him, about to say something warily. But before he could speak, he heard the figure opposite him say calmly, "Enough nonsense, come on, come and please me." "What?" The filth was stunned, not understanding what he meant. Then, the next moment, a golden light appeared before him, a dazzling golden pillar. "Ah!" The filth's eyes widened in terror, feeling a strong sense of life and death crisis. "Get out of the way," he roared in his heart. Unfortunately, no matter how desperately he dodged, his speed was utterly insignificant compared to the speed of the golden pillar. The next second, splat! The filth looked down at the golden pillar embedded in his chest, his expression filled with horror. At that moment, a cold, disdainful voice rang out from the opposite side. "Trash, is this all you've got?" Upon hearing this, the filth instantly flew into rage. As a 7th level god, when had anyone ever spoken to him like that? "You?" However, before he could finish speaking, the golden wheel embedded in his chest suddenly moved. He was cleaved into at an incredible speed. The filth, his face filled with astonishment and shock, gradually vanished. "How?" A disdainful laugh rang out. As the battle ended, outside, seeing a 7th level god so easily defeated, apart from the 8th and 9th level gods, a hint of fear appeared in the eyes of the other gods. "He really has that much strength?" Hiss, another one-hit kill. "This ember radiance is far too terrifying," shocked voices echoed. The death of his 7th level god subordinate made the illusory expression turn serious. The strength of this ember radiance, he had to admit that the ember radiance's strength was indeed remarkable. No further information was obtained. The illusion frowned. "It seems I have to go, Your Highness Nightmare Overlord. I will try out ember radiance this time," he spoke to the Nightmare Overlord. The Nightmare Overlord nodded and said, "Be careful." Under the watchful eyes of the gods, he entered the portal. A moment later, as the gray mist dissipated, the gods saw the scene inside once again. "You are the challenger." Projection Suyun floated in the air, speaking arrogantly. The illusion was displeased and sneered, "Ember Radiance, I can't beat your true form, but I can't beat your mere projection. I'd like to see how you, a 7th level god, can defeat an 8th level god." "What, cheated you?" "Cheated?" Projection Suyun looked at him disdainfully. Chapter 377 The Astonished 8th Level Divine Illusion. With a series of loud cracking sounds, the illusory divine protective barrier shattered instantly. Boom! He was sent flying, completely at a disadvantage. "Ah!" The illusory figure roared in frustration. He couldn't believe that an 8th level god like himself was being overwhelmed by a 7th level god. What kind of logic was this? He didn't cheat. Why does he have such power? He was furious, utterly unable to understand. Projection Suyun, watching his opponent being knocked away, didn't press his advantage, calmly saying, "Very good, your strength is not bad. Enjoy pleasing me, you." The illusory figure, who had just stopped, turned ashen-faced upon hearing this, feeling an unspeakable humiliation and anger. This was treating him like a plaything. "How dare you?" the illusory figure roared. Instantly, another illusory figure appeared beside him. Projection Suyun's face flashed with surprise. He hadn't expected another one to appear. The two illusory figures launched an attack instantly, two enormous, semi-transparent chains hurtling towards Projection Suyun. Seeing this, Projection Suyun waved his hand, a blinding white light flashing. Boom! With each collision of the three attacks, the projected Suyun was at a disadvantage. Ha ha ha! Seeing this, the illusory figure felt its frustration dissipate, and its mood was quite good. Before long, the two illusory figures began to overwhelm the projected Suyun. However, the illusory figure's joy didn't last long. Looking at the projected Suyun, who, although at a disadvantage, wasn't particularly battered, its face turned extremely ugly. Unwilling to accept defeat, its form shifted again, and another figure appeared beside it. Originally, it didn't want to create more illusory figures, fearing the guy in front of it would notice something amiss, but two were simply not enough to crush this guy. Damn it, the attacks of the three illusory figures directly put the projected Suyun at a complete disadvantage. Fortunately, at the crucial moment, the projected Suyun discovered the problem and saw through its moves. Damn it, the illusory figure was unwilling to accept defeat. How could this guy be so strong? Helpless, the illusory figure had no choice but to create countless illusions, beginning a battle of real and fake. Outside, it started, seeing the countless clones and attacking illusions created by the illusory figure. A part of the gods who understood its abilities had their eyes light up. With such a formidable ability, illusion is bound to win, a blend of falsehood and reality, the gods exclaimed. Although Su Yun's abilities were indeed formidable, surprising them, illusion could still win. The burly god, enraged, suddenly spoke up, "Have you forgotten? That Ember Radiance defeated Ansem." Instantly, the discussion ceased, and every god stared at the battlefield in astonishment. Could it be that the projection of Ember Radiance possessed some other means to conquer the god arena? The projection of Su Yun said calmly, "What you know, I also know." With that, his figure shifted, and dozens of clones appeared in the air, along with attack illusions. Illusion's eyes bulged, his expression turning horrified. "Impossible," he roared in shock and anger. This scene left his mind blank, buzzing. How could this Ember Radiance possibly know his techniques? Not only was he incredulous, but all the gods watching from the outside, including the 9th level gods, were utterly astonished. What's going on? This Ember Radiance? Then, the gods witnessed a dramatic scene. Both sides were playing with illusions, and both were incredibly realistic. If they hadn't known beforehand that they were illusions, they would have thought they were real. Not long after, "You're going to lose," the projection of Su Yun said calmly. A golden pillar was thrust into the unbelievable phantom's chest. Accompanied by invisibility and other divine spells, Su Yun easily struck the phantom with a golden wheel. The phantom let out a huge roar of unwilling anger. Unfortunately, it was just a futile struggle. After struggling for a while, he was killed. Before dissipating, he heard the projection's calm voice, "Useless." The phantom was filled with rage and wanted to say something, but everything went black, and he was directly plunged into darkness. Outside, watching the phantom fail and dissipate, the gods fell silent. This kind of strength, no wonder he could defeat Anmian. They had witnessed the power of the Ember Radiance and felt a shock in their hearts. As for the previous thought of cheating, they saw it clearly this time, and they no longer had that thought. This isn't cheating, this is a freak. He's only a 7th level god, someone murmured, and instantly all the gods were shaken and deeply moved. They almost forgot, this Ember Radiance is only a 7th level god. Hiss, gasps of astonishment rang out. The 3 9th level gods surrounded by the other gods exchanged glances, their hearts also trembling. "This extraordinary power is astonishing," the goddess of winter exclaimed sincerely. The Lord of Misfortune's eyes flickered, sensing a threat. The Nightmare Overlord opened his mouth, about to say something, when a ripple in the void caused the illusion to redescend, unconsciously forming a body. Upon appearing, he still harbored rage, wishing he could crush the Ember Radiance into dust. Noticing the Nightmare Overlord looking over, he quickly stepped forward and said guiltily, "Your Highness, I lost." The Nightmare Overlord shook his head and said calmly, "Forget it, the Ember's strength is beyond reason. It's normal for you to lose. Don't take it to heart." The illusion nodded unwillingly. After the Nightmare Overlord finished speaking, he suddenly thought of something, that Ember's strength is not bad. "Next time I see him, I'll invite him." Upon hearing this, the illusion became even angrier and couldn't help but say to the Nightmare Overlord, "Your Highness, that Ember's ungrateful behavior, I just invited him not long ago, but he didn't take your Highness seriously at all. He's really arrogant and ignorant." "What did you say?" The Nightmare Overlord's face changed and became ugly. Then, the illusion recounted the whole story in detail, and the other gods nearby quickly echoed him. Listening to the words around him, the Nightmare Overlord's face grew increasingly gloomy. Fine, he laughed angrily. The surrounding gods shuddered at the chilling laughter. It seemed the Nightmare Lord was enraged. That Ember of Radiance had offended this prince, he was doomed. Despite Ember of Radiance's exaggerated strength, the gods still felt a pang of sympathy for him, not believing he would have a good end. Even with his heaven-defying power, could he possibly defeat the Nightmare Lord's entire troop of level 8 gods? Even a group attack would be enough to kill Ember of Radiance. Not to mention the Nightmare Lord himself, no matter how powerful the opponent, against the Nightmare Lord, he would be easily crushed like an insect. Thank you Red Dust Dream for the 1,888 coin donation. Thank you Black Cat in the Rain for the 300 coin donation. Thank you 2018021922523494 feet for the 100 coin donation. Thank you 2020112203521672 feet for the 100 coin donation. Thank you Legend for the 100 coin reward. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.